Commanders hire Dan Quinn to match with their new general manager, Adam Peters, to lead this franchise into the future.
The way that we live is not for everybody, okay? It's not, all right? Because we're going to run and put our bodies on people in a violent manner.
Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the blues, we'll cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So, before we can move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers, it's a big game. I think this is the biggest game of Week 10. If you're talking records-wise, 7-2 versus 6-2, I don't think you're going to find a better matchup on paper, right? There'll be some maybe more intriguing games, Dallas, Philly, but that's lost its luster. Dallas is 3-5. There's no Dak Prescott. The Cowboys look cooked, right? Bengals, Ravens on Thursday night. Yeah, normally that would probably be at the top of the pile. Not necessarily this time around. Bengals are trying to figure some things out. Big win on Sunday, right? Winning that game in the fashion, Joe Burrow throwing 5 touchdown passes, maybe inject some life back into that matchup on Thursday night. That one should be fun. But record-wise, no one's touching this game, right? So we will get to the Steelers and the magnitude of this game tonight and as the week continues to progress. However, before we can move on and turn the page to the Steelers in the Week 10 matchup, we first have to close the book on the New York Giants and the season sweep that took place on Sunday. Was able to watch the film with the mob, and upon further review, Brandon Coleman was as advertised. He was really good in the game. Really impressed with what I saw from him in the game. Some of the things that I had, really been down on him about, I didn't see those things manifest themselves in this game. Now, again, they did a good job of taking care of him. A lot of chips on his side, a lot of attention paid to him on the way out, whether it was a running back or a tight end or even a receiver in certain instances. Guys usually got a piece before they went out into their route. That said, and that's what you're supposed to do. That's good coaching. That said, there were times where they left him unattended, right? You're on your own, figure it out, and he did, right? So solid in the run game, did a really good job in pass protection, was outstanding, really didn't give up any pressures. Normally I'm not big on, this guy didn't give up any pressures. Let me find out for myself, because what you consider a pressure and what I consider a pressure might be two different things. He didn't give up any pressures in this game. He was outstanding, and that is so good to see. You're hoping that that is the beginning of what is going to be a magnificent career at left tackle. You're hoping that he is the answer and that we don't have to spend any more resources into that position, right? Imagine getting your starting left tackle in the 3rd round in the same draft that you find your franchise QB. That could be, we talked about that 2022 draft as potentially being a foundation builder for us. If Jahan Dotson turned out to be really good, if Sam Howell turned out to be really good, obviously we saw the potential there and what he's been in Brian Robinson Jr. and, Cole Turner and all these guys that we were super excited about in that 2022 draft. This is more along the lines of a foundation building draft here in 2024. If, Coleman is able to continue to establish himself as the answer at left tackle. We already see what the rest of the draft has produced for us. Newton was outstanding. Speaking of which, you're continuing to watch him morph into a problem. I thought he was really good, especially in the second half of that Giants game. He was unblockable at times. And so that we're going to need that from him, right? His activity, his hustle, his ability to defeat one-on-one blocks, something that frankly, we've struggled with this season inside in particular, is winning and defeating one-on-one blocks and being disruptive. He was that in the second half of the Giants game, and that's building upon what he did in week number 8. Again, John Newton himself said after the Bears game, I'm starting to feel like myself, and you're starting to see that manifest itself on the tape and on the field. So he was really good. Going back and watching the game, there were some opportunities that were left on the field, as there are every week. And you want to nitpick, you can, but when it's all said and done, We made the plays that needed to be made to win the game, and that's what's important. But you want to also be able to grow and learn from some of the mistakes, learn from some of the missed opportunities, some of the opportunities that were left on the field. And, I've been saying this about like Ben Sinnott and some other guys that, hey, we need to get, guys like Ben Sinnott more opportunities. I think the same can be said for Luke McCaffrey. Luke is open, and there was an opportunity on the first possession. We talked about that. Luke was open, didn't get it to him. There was another opportunity for De'Ami Brown in the end zone on a possession that we ultimately had to settle for a field goal. You would like Jayden to see that again. I don't want to be nitpicky because he's so awesome. And he's only in week 9, going into week 10 of his rookie season. And sometimes that gets lost, that this man has really played in 8 games to this point of his career, because I really don't even count the Carolina game, right? He's really played in 8 games in his NFL career, and he's so awesome. And he's so good to the point where you put these expectations on him. And, one of the things watching the Giants game that stood out is he doesn't put the ball in harm's way, right? Like, we knew that, but watching that game back, you're like, there wasn't one time where you go, well, that was dangerous. You kind of, teetering on the brink of some disaster here. You got away with it this week, but it may not be, you might not be so fortunate next week. It doesn't happen, right? Some of the passes were ridiculous. Obviously, the Terry touchdown, the Noah Brown throw was excellent. I thought Noah Brown was back to being himself in this game. You got to see him really be a huge, factor in the game. Obviously, you really like to see guys step up when their opportunities present themselves and when their number is called. And we talked about Chris Rodriguez, but going back and watching him, the blitz pickup on a 3rd and 1 where we get it to Ben Sinnott out of the backfield, that's all C-Rod, right? It's a great block, and you're just like, wow, you just got in here and look at what you're doing. And again, it's great coaching. You can't be on the field if you can't block. And what you've seen from every single one of our running backs this season is that they're protecting 5 at all costs, right? The minute they get in the game, and it doesn't matter who it is, like, we've been fans of this team for a very long time, and we would know if it's 3rd down, it's got to be, J.D. McKissic, because none of the other guys can block and none of the other guys can catch, right? Like, guys had specialized roles. This is all they did. No, we can put Austin Eckler in on 1st down. We can put Jeremy McNichols in on 1st down. We can put B-Rob in on 1st down. We can put Chris Rodriguez in on 1st down. We can put all 4 of them in on 3rd downs. Now, I don't necessarily want to throw the ball to Chris Rodriguez out of the backfield, but he can catch, right? But most importantly, all of them can protect. So you're not putting them into a box. And you got to see that in this game. Chris Rodriguez can protect. You can hand it to him. He was huge down the stretch of this game. Defensively, Jeremy Chin was everything that you thought he was in this game, and then some. He was spectacular. I thought that you got to see some things that I think might lend itself to, my biggest thing had been since the Marshawn Lattimore trade. Well, Noah Igbenogany's playing fine. If it's not broke, don't fix it. But what if you can get better? Yeah, not being broke doesn't mean don't try and get better, right? Like, if it's not broken, then you don't need to fix it. But that doesn't mean you don't need better, right? I'll give you an example. You have a mirror in your room, right? It's a nice mirror. It's not a full body mirror. It's not a vanity mirror, but it's a nice mirror. You've had it for a while. It's fine. It works. It's not broken. But you can get a better one, right? Your car, it works. It runs. It gets you from point A to point B. You've never had any issues. As long as you continue to go and get the preventative maintenance done, it's been really good for you. Doesn't mean you don't need a new car or you don't want a new car. That one's not broken, but you'd like an upgrade. And so, you know what? Watching this game, Noah Igbenogany's fine. but he gave up some completions, right? And then I think back to the Baltimore game, and he gave up some stuff, and there was some miscommunications, and you just go, you know what? Benjamin St. Juice, like, I'm not a Benjamin St. Juice hater. You guys are. A lot of you guys are. I'm not. Because it's the same thing I used to tell you about Kendall Fuller. You guys used to kill me on Kendall Fuller, and then finally, took you about 3 years, but you finally came around, because for the first 2 years, he was baked ziti. He could do nothing right. And I was like, yo, y'all tripping. Kendall Fuller is nowhere near as bad as you guys make him out to be. And then eventually you came around and you're like, yeah, Kendall Fuller's not bad. Well, I feel the same way about Benjamin St. Juice. Benjamin St. Juice is not Kendall Fuller. And I'm not defending him the way that I used to defend Kendall Fuller, because Kendall Fuller, I knew, could play football at a high level. Benjamin St. Juice, I still question how high of a level he can get to, because he can't catch, because he doesn't make plays on the football, because he does not have long distance speed. These are things that hinder your ability to be elite in this league. Can he be a number 2 corner? I think so. High level number 2? No. Low level number 2? Yes. I think he's going to get that opportunity with Marshawn Lattimore here. And I saw Marshawn giving him some pointers on press. And when guys come off the line of scrimmage, you saw them kind of working together over there. That's a sight for sore eyes. He needs all the help he can get with technique and things of that nature. But Juice is not terrible. A lot of you, I don't think, are watching other teams play. And I always emphasize, hey, watch other teams, man. Get a sense for what the rest of the league looks like. You think our cornerback situation is bad? There's some other teams. Do you understand that we have a top 10 pass defense in the league? Do you understand that? I don't think some of you do understand that we have a top 10 pass defense. Granted, we haven't played the best passing offenses in the league. When you play teams like Cleveland and Carolina scored 36 points in a game this season. Carolina scored 24 points against Cincinnati. Since that's not a good example, Cincinnati defensively stinks this year, and the Raiders aren't great themselves. But I said all that to say this. You can give up yards and points, and we haven't. We haven't. There needs to be some credit given, right? And Benjamin St. Juice isn't as bad as a lot of you make him out to be. Here's the issue. He's doing what he's coached to be done. He's doing what he's being coached to do. Keep everything in front of you. You rather him give up the 55-yard play or the 12-yard play in front of him. You can't have it both ways unless you're a really good corner. He's not a really good corner, right? Where you can say, hey, lock it down. Don't give him that or the one over the top. You got to pick with Benjamin, right? Now that you have a number one corner that can take away number 1 wide receivers, now you can play over the top of Benjamin's side. You can be a little bit more aggressive. Benjamin can be a little bit more aggressive. You may not see those 12-yard, 15-yard comebacks and things of that nature being given up now. He can play tighter. He can be more aggressive. But I said all that to say this. Watching this game, there were some things given up. And you go, yeah, I could see them wanting to keep Benjamin on the outside. Benjamin tackles really well. They're big on that. He's a physical guy. I like his physicality. I hate that he's so handsy, but I like his physicality. I'd rather have that than a guy that isn't. And I think they really want Mikey to go back inside. And I think they want to do a lot of things with Mikey. They want to blitz with Mikey, right? They want to disguise some things. Mikey tackles, right? I think they want to see what this looks like with Mikey playing the position that they drafted him to play. So I'm open to whatever they decide to do, but that feels like the move, right? Benjamin St. Juice outside, Marshawn Lattimore outside, and you slide Mikey inside. That feels like the move. But upon further review, this defense is getting better. And with the addition of Marshawn Lattimore, you have a chance to do things that you didn't have the capabilities of doing. We've talked about that It's a part of why this thing has a chance to be so different, right? So I'll say this just so we're clear, and we'll probably expound upon this when we get to the injury report. Don't look for Marshawn Lattimore this week. He's not playing against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'm not rushing him. I won't be shocked if he doesn't play against Philadelphia either, right? I'm right now, I've got the Dallas Cowboys game circled on the calendar. I pray he's ready. But what they don't want to do, which is what the Saints, and in my mind, I'm kind of cussing the Saints out because they rushed him back. He left the Thursday night game with an injury against the Broncos. It was like his hamstring was tightening up. And they felt like, oh, he's good. And he told them he was good. And so they put him out there the next week. And he re-aggravated it, and it got worse. Instead of just letting them heal and letting them rest up, you get a Thursday night game, you get 10 days off, between the next game, and you think, oh, he's got extra time, he should be fine. And he wasn't fine. And then he re-aggravated it, and then he missed this past week's game against the Panthers, and so he missed the Chargers game. That's where he re-aggravated it, rather, the Chargers game. And so he missed the Panthers game. And so now I'm thinking there's no way he's playing this week. And the question is, with the quick turnaround, is he going to be ready to play against the Eagles 4 days later? Probably not, is my guess. I don't know this for sure, guys. I can't confirm nor deny this, but my guess is week 12 against Dallas will be the first time we get to really see Marshawn Lattimore on the field, is my guess. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope he's ready for week 11, because that's the game you circle on the calendar and say, that's why we brought you here, for AJ, Brown, and for Devontae Smith and that crew. We brought you here for CeeDee Lamb. We brought you here to take on some of the best receivers in the league. We brought you here to take on Drake London, right? When we see the Atlanta Falcons. Like, these are the guys that we want you to be able to lock down, or at least minimize their impact on the game, and allow us to get frisky on the other side of the field and be a lot more aggressive stopping the run and with our blitz packages. So we'll see, right? I think the hamstring thing is real. I don't think this is a Devontae Adams hamstring injury, right? I think he's legitimately compromised right now. So one thing we know about this group is they're not going to rush him, right? They're not going to rush him, which is why our guys have been relatively, good this year. We're going to leave it at that. We're not going to talk about some of those things, but they've done a much better job. Everything's better, right? Everything's better this year. Everything. From the smallest minute detail, everything's better this year. So, let's get to in other news, and kind of turn the page now to week 10. This is a big one, guys and gals. This is a big one. Who are we kidding? And can I just right now, let me give a big effing shout out to B Mitch. Me and him don't always see eye to eye. But at the end of the Giants post game, I watched a lot of that post game because they had players coming in and out, and I was listening. I think Logan Paulson had jumped in there at the end, and he was talking about some of the things he saw. So I was interested, and he said at the very end of that thing, as they were signing off, hey, the Steelers are showing up. You know what they do. They come in, they try to take over stadiums. You already know what it is. They bring in their terrible towels with them, right? We need to hand out burgundy towels. Let them wave their gold towels. We'll wave our burgundies, and it'll be burgundy and gold waving in the damn stadium, and let's turn it up. I said, you know what, B Mitch? I said, when he said that shit on Sunday, I said, that's a damn genius idea. That is effing brilliant. I wonder if they're going to listen. Everything has been done correctly this year. Why wouldn't they listen? It is an ingenious idea. Why wouldn't they run with it? Every right button has been pressed, and I woke up this morning to the news of, hey, we handing out towels this week. burgundy towels. So come on, Steelers fans, bring your damn terrible towels. We got our towels. You wave yours, we'll wave ours, and it's going to feel like, oh man, burgundy, a sea of burgundy and gold. This is a sight to behold. Every right button pressed. You want to flip the script on us? We're going to flip the script on you. Make it work for us. God damn it, I love this team. I love this new organization. Celebrate. This is what we waited for. Feels good, feels good. Anyway, I digress. We heard from not only DQ and Jayden Daniels, as we normally do on Wednesdays, we actually heard from our general manager, Adam Peters, today because of the trade of for Marshawn Lattimore. He was made available to the media because of the post-trade deadline activity. And so he had some things to say. So we'll talk about what he said. Obviously, we'll talk about what DQ had to say and what Jayden had to say heading into Week 10's contest versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. But before we get to any of that, let's first take a look at the injury report for both teams, starting with the good guys heading into this Week 10 contest versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so the injury report looks as follows. Zach Ertz rest, as he always does on Wednesday. Marshawn Lattimore, hamstring, did not practice, but we did see him out there, on the sidelines, probably getting to know some of the players and, introduce himself, kind of acclimate himself. We also heard from him, in a media scrum, and you can tell that he's excited for the opportunity to be here. Next chapter of his career, knows what he brings to the table. I love the fact that there are other players that he is, very fond of, but not just fond of, went to school with. There's a bond there with 3 other players on this roster, and Jalen Holmes, Noah Brown, and of course, Terry McLaurin, all a part of the 2024 Ohio State recruiting class. So those guys have a special relationship with one another. And so he's going to be welcome into the locker room just like that. It's always great when you see a familiar face when you go somewhere brand new and different. So he understands the culture. They laid that out for him. He's like, I fit right in. I'm a dog. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to hunt, and so it's great to hear him talk about all those things. But I think we're going to have to wait a little while to see 23 on the field in a burgundy and gold uniform. I think we're going to have to wait a little while. So you might have to pump the brakes on that. I look at it as we got this toy on Christmas Day, but our parents didn't buy us batteries. Batteries didn't come included, and batteries not included. They weren't assembled with batteries. You needed 8 AA batteries. And of course, it's Christmas. Stores are closed, right? Not today. Today, stores are open on Christmas. You can go to the store and get you some batteries. When I was growing up, stores were closed on Christmas. You weren't going to the store to get batteries. So you have to wait. Got this incredible toy. I can't wait to play with it, but I don't have any batteries. That's Marshawn Lattimore. So just be patient, right? Be patient. Cornelius Lucas, ankle, did not participate. I told you guys last week, I think this one's going to last a little bit longer than we would like it to. I don't think he's playing this week either. And then if he doesn't play this week, low percentage chance that he's going to be ready 4 days later against Philadelphia. I think we'll see him be available, much like Lattimore, for the Dallas game in Week 12. But we'll see what happens. I hope to be wrong. A lot of people were very nervous about this next one. Austin Seibert, our kicker, who has been just spectacular for us with a right hip injury, did not practice today. None of us are, aware of when this transpired. I'm not making a big deal out of it right now, right? It's Wednesday. I don't really get too riled up about Wednesday DNPs. If you're not going to practice, Wednesday's the day to not practice. I've told you that for years. So not going to put too much stock into it right now. But if this persists throughout the course of this week and we get to, Friday and we're still asking, like, if he doesn't practice tomorrow, Just give me limited tomorrow and I'll feel fine. I'll be fine. If you tell me tomorrow he's DNP, now I start to get a little nervous, and then I expect the Commanders. If they're nervous, you'll know because they'll go out and they'll acquire a kicker and put him on the practice squad. Okay. So right now we don't have a practice squad kicker, and they haven't made any moves. So that should tell you right now, because if they look, they knew he wasn't practicing today with the right hip. They knew that, right? He came in yesterday. He was a little sore. If they had any questions about his availability for this, they would have brought in kickers already. Trotted out a couple of them, had those guys work out and put one of them on the practice squad. Them not doing anything at the kicking position leads me to believe that he's just fine. This is a precautionary thing. He'll be ready to go on Sunday, and we really don't need to make a big deal about it. Now, if he doesn't practice tomorrow, now you should be a little alarmed, and I would expect there to be some corresponding move where they go out, they work a couple of guys out, and they sign one of these guys to the practice squad, and they have themselves prepared in the event that he can't go, right? So something to keep a watchful eye on, but I'm not overly concerned right now. Dorrance Armstrong, shoulder, Tyler Biadasz, thumb, Cleveland Farrell, knee, Dante Fowler Jr., groin, Brian Robinson Jr., hamstring, all limited participants in practice on Wednesday, which is usually a good sign for guys trending towards playing on Sunday. Again, need that to continue to be the case, trending upward, or at least continuing to be limited all week. But none of those guys feel like players that won't play outside of Brian Robinson Jr., which he was close last week. So I assume he'll be able to go this week. Noah Igbenogany, thumb, and Fedarian Mathis was in the concussion protocol. Both were full participants today. So again, you have no reason to doubt that those guys, obviously barring a setback for Fedarian in the protocol, you expect those guys to be available on Sunday. So again, I said this the last couple of weeks, although there are quite a few names on this list, very, very low-level threat in terms of injury report. This is a non-threatening injury report. Let's keep it that way, right? Let's go to the ops. And obviously theirs is going to look a lot cleaner than ours because they're coming off of a bye. Hey, how about that, right? Second time in 3 weeks, we're playing a team coming off of a bye, right? Bears were coming off of a bye when we played them in week 8. Now we're getting the Steelers off of a bye in week number 10. It is what it is. So, and I think we had somebody off of a bye earlier in the season, if I'm not mistaken, but that's nor here nor there. I think maybe the Panthers or someone. I don't remember. Anyway, nothing here really to write home about, and you don't really expect to catch a break with somebody coming off of a bye. You just don't. Terrell Edmonds, illness, didn't practice, but I'd assume that, unless it's something significant, he'll be ready by Sunday. Isaac Suamalu, rest. So that means he's fine. He just didn't practice, similar to Zach Ertz. Nate Herbig, who's a really good pass rusher, got hurt in the Cowboys game, dealing with a hamstring, limited participant. If he can't go, that's good, but they don't need him. They traded for Preston Smith. They still have Alex Highsmith. They got plenty of guys and get to the quarterback. And then obviously the elephant in the room, TJ Watt, he's just icing on the cake. If Nick Herbig is healthy, he's a problem, though. I'd love him to not play in this game, just to not have an extra added, pass rusher out there. But Justin Fields, hamstring, he was a full participant. This is significant in the event that something happens to Russell Wilson, or they want to start using Fields in some, red zone packages. That could be something to keep an eye on. So that's good news for the Steelers. Zach Frazier, ankle. Tyler Medikevich, hamstring. Cordero Patterson, that's a big one. Ankle. And Ben Skoranek, shoulder, all full participants, which means all of those guys more than likely are going to be able to play on Sunday. And Cordero Patterson, he scares the daylights out of me. He's going to get opportunities. If there were ever a week where I would be on board with just kick it out of bounds, out of the end zone, not out of bounds. Just kick it out into the end zone. Let him get it at the 30. I have so much respect for Cordero Patterson that he's the only guy in the league right now that I would say, hey, don't kick it to him. But we not scared. We ain't no bitch around here. We're going to kick it to him, and we're going to make him return it. And I'm just like, hey, everybody, do your job this week. The Steelers, I will say this. This is the best special teams unit we've faced all season long. They are blocking kicks. There's Danny Smith. We all know Danny. If you've been a fan of this team long enough, Danny, his work. He chews the biggest wad of gum in the game, and he's going to bring a hell of a special teams unit with him. And so with our history of having kicks blocked and all the nonsense that goes on, this is a week that does scare me. I'm going to be honest with you. It does scare me. But I've cast all of my old fears aside because this ain't what it used to be. This is something brand spanking new. It's young, fresh, and new, and very successful. And so I'm not going to bring the old baggage of what used to happen to us into this year, but Steelers scare me on special teams. I will say that. Anyway, I digress. Let's talk about what was said at the press conference today. Also want to throw this out there so I don't forget. I'm saying this out loud, so I'm reminding myself. I've got a couple of tickets to give away for the Steelers game, putting some Commanders' butts in seats. And I got to give a big shout out to the person that made it possible. One of the members of the mob donated these. These are great tickets. These are the best tickets that I've given away all season long. These are season tickets, like at the 50-yard line, probably like 8-9 rows up. I mean, these are some incredible tickets. And so I got to get the name of the person because he gave me these tickets probably 2-3 weeks ago. He was on it like, hey, I'm not going to be able to go to the game. I want to donate these to the mob. So we're going to give him a special, humongous shout out tomorrow on the show. Matter of fact, let's see if I can't track his name down right now. I don't remember exactly what email that he sent me tickets at. I'm gonna have to find it, and but we gonna shout him out tomorrow's show when we give those tickets away. We're gonna give them some love because these are some damn good seats. And you know how I love to bless the mob, but we've created this community where if you can't go to the game, people are making sure they donate the tickets to the mob. So I love it. And this is another example of that, man. Big shout out to the mob. Stand up. We in the building. You know what it is. So let's get to what we heard from our triumvirate, right? Of GM, head coach, and quarterback. Start with Chef P. Adam Peters, the best in the game right now, doing what he's done, all season long, which is press the right buttons, whether it's, getting rid of the kicker after, the first week of the season, once he missed kicks and got his 7th round pick back, and then found our savior at the kicking position in Austin Seibert, or going out after everyone's made their cuts to their rosters and scooping up Noah Brown. And keep in mind, remember, Noah Brown did not play the first game after we got him. He did not play in that Tampa Bay game. His first game of the season was the Giant game. So this could be very similar to that with Marshawn Lattimore, where he doesn't play immediately, doesn't play right away, right? And then, plays shortly thereafter. Might be a little bit longer for him. I don't think he's playing in either of the first 2 games. I think the Cowboys game will be his first contest here in Washington. But nonetheless, Adam Peters talked about, the opportunity that presented itself and how it didn't matter if we were 0-9 or 9-0. There was an opportunity to better this football team. And I've talked about this on various platforms, whether it's the podcast, on any of these Commanders shows, on one of the post game shows, on Overtime. I've talked about how we've seen a shift. I even talked about it a bit yesterday on the trade deadline special show that I did, where there's a shift. There's this paradigm shift in the thought process of how you go about the trade deadline that didn't used to exist 5 years ago, right? You're seeing teams now like Dallas. Dallas is a great example this year, Bears in past years, that teams that aren't good have no chance of winning anything of note this year, but they're still trading for players at the deadline, not because they think that player is going to come in and help them win, like we traded for Marshawn Lattimore, thinking he's going to help us win this year. They traded for Jonathan Mingo thinking he can be a number 2 receiver for them moving forward. He's still got 2 years left on his rookie deal after this season. So they say cheap labor, guy that's still young with tons of upside. We like him. We loved him coming out of Ole Miss, and we think he can play really good football. We're going to put him next to CeeDee Lamb and see what he can do, right? That's a shift in a thought process. And Adam Peters was like, we just saw an opportunity to get better. Lattimore still has 2 years on his contract after this season. He talked about him making the league minimum. So you're not paying him but peanuts this year because the Saints restructured his deal, paid him a bunch of upfront money, and cut his salary down to base salary to league minimum so that they could fit under the cap. So he got all of his money really in bonuses before the season even started. So he's making the league minimum every week, essentially. So that's, again, a relief if you're the Commanders. And then you'll pay him the $18 million and the $18.5 the years, the next couple of years. That's nothing for a cornerback, a high-level corner in this market, right? It's nothing. I talked about that already on CNN on Monday, right, on episode 10.1. So, Chef Pete talked about all those things and how this was an opportunity to get better. He fixed our culture. He's a dog competitor. He's a guy that we think can come in here and kind of elevate the play of this defense, allow them to do different things. He talked about the relationship between he and DQ in terms of, figuring out all of this stuff, DQ being the coach that he is, but allowing Adam Peters to handle that stuff and fully trusting him to go out and get players, but also DQ being tasked with, hey, we're thinking about this guy. He might be available. Here's some cut-ups of this guy. What do you think? And DQ being able to give his opinion on those things. Chef P talked about, really having, the experience of being in the game, he said, for 22 years, whether it was in New England or Denver or San Francisco, and just seeing how other guys have done it, their triumphs, their failures, kind of learning from all those things. But he said, look, this team obviously has done some great things, some really good things so far this year. And that did expedite, I think, the process, the timeline, if you will. But he pretty much said repeatedly, without saying, this was an opportunity to get better, and this is a player that we didn't know was going to be available. You don't know who's going to be available until they're available. All you can do is ask, and the team can just tell you not available, or we're listening. What do you have in mind? And so he went through the process of working with Mickey Loomis. He said, hey, Mickey's a professional. We got a good working relationship. This is the second trade that we've done with them. Obviously, we did the John Ridgeway trade at the end of August into maybe early stages of September. So there was a working relationship between the two of them. And he said he was pretty straightforward with me, and I appreciate that. But he also talked about the compensation that was given up, and the conversation of, the future, which is the draft capital, versus the now, which is acquiring a player like Marshawn Lattimore, and that delicate balance of the two. And he said, look, we had multiple picks in the 3rd and the 6th round. That was a huge part of, what we did and kind of going into the decision-making process is We had 9 picks in the 2025 draft. After making the couple of trades this summer, we had 9 picks. And so, we felt comfortable giving up a 3 because we had 2 of them, and we didn't give up the one that we got from the Eagles via Miami, right? So, or from Miami via the Eagles, right? That's the Miami Dolphins 3rd round pick, which right now is sitting pretty. We'll see how their season continues to go. But we didn't give that one up. So we kept the more valuable of the 2 of those. You gave up the 6, but it was the one that we got in the John Ridgeway trade from New Orleans. We just gave it right back to him. And then here was the genius of Adam Peters. And we saw this on the draft night display, right? We saw his genius. He doesn't ever like in a trade not getting something back from a pick standpoint. Like, I need another pick. Remember when he was having that dialogue with Howie Roseman, and he's like, this isn't sitting well with me. We're losing a pick. I need another pick back. So he picked up the phone, he called Howie, and he was like, hey, I need a pick. I need, an additional pick here to make this thing work for me. And Howie was desperate, right? Howie wanted to get Cooper DeJean. Hey, either you want to do it or we're not doing it. I need that extra pick though, bro. And so even in this deal, saying, all right, you can get our 4, but I need your 5. We'll swap those. But I need your 5. Because I need to still have 7 picks in the draft. I can't have 6. Now I'm below the Mendoza line. The standard issue draft pick in the NFL is 7, right? When the NFL hands out picks, everybody gets 7, 1 in each round. What you do with them is up to you, but we gave you 7, just like everybody else. I can't be below the 7. And that's what he's pretty much said. I need to make sure that I stay with at least 7 picks. So I gave away the 2 that I acquired this summer, right? Now, obviously, you kept the better of the 2 3s, right? But you gave away a 3. You gave back the 6 from New Orleans that you got in the Ridgeway trade. And you said, not giving you the 4, we swapping it out for a 5. That's beautiful. So he kind of explained and walked us through that entire thought process. And he said, look, man, we had a chance to improve this football team. And I'm always going to look to try and do what's best for this team, whether that's trading somebody or acquiring a player. And that's what they did in getting a guy like Marshawn Lattimore. And he even went as far as to talk about, we see Lattimore as in his prime. He's still running at top speed. The metrics bear that out. He's still playing at a very high level, and I don't see that changing anytime soon, he said. He said, but we still got him for 2 more years after this year. And I think he's playing at a high level, and he's going to continue to play at a high level. So, and we have no reason to believe that he won't. And he said, even if, the speed starts to leave or, some attributes of his game start to decline, we think he can make up in other areas, like being, smart, similar to like a Tyrann Mathieu. He doesn't run like he used to, but he's such a smart football player. He can adapt and adjust and still play at a very high level because mentally he sees things that other players don't see. And he's able, just like Bobby Wagner. Bobby Wagner doesn't run as well as he used to, but he's so smart. He's so well prepared that he still gets to plays and still makes things happen that other guys who are faster, who are younger, can't make. So it was good to hear from Chef P, as always. And, it's always nice to talk to the chef after you've just ate another excellent meal. And you're like, man, my compliments to the chef. It's always nice for him to come out from behind, those kitchen doors and say, hey, I appreciate the compliments. And we like, man, we appreciate this beautiful meal that you've presented us with. This is delicious. Keep them coming, right? So we heard from DQ, and obviously you started out the press conference talking about this trade and the player because he was a little bit more intimate about his experience with Marshawn Lattimore, having coached against him in the NFC South for a number of years. He could speak to the toughness, the competitiveness, the grit that this guy had. He's like, look, this dude never backed down from a challenge against Julio. Julio! Not many guys can say that in this league. Julio was one of the most physically imposing receivers in the NFL throughout the duration of his career. And not many dudes wanted any parts of Julio Jones. Not many dudes wanted to cover him one-on-one. Not many guys could cover him one-on-one. But Marshawn always was ready for that challenge and never backed down. And DQ said that was one of the things he really respected about him. He was a dog-ass competitor. And he said, we knew that because I coached against him, but we also talked to guys in the locker room, right? And Chef P talked about, the four guys, well, now the four guys, but the three guys that were here previous to Lattimore that were all from that Ohio State class. And he said, you'd be kind of foolish. He said, I don't want to say the word foolish, but you'd be remiss if you didn't talk to those guys to kind of get a sense of who Lattimore was, or is rather, as a player, and what we would be potentially getting if we did trade for him. And DQ spoke to that as well. Like, yeah, no, we talked to Terry. We talked to Noah. We asked those guys, what is this guy all about? And, Terry's word, you take that to the bank. If Terry tells you, yo, he's a dog-ass competitor, you want this guy on your team, enough said, right? So DQ talked about, he didn't want to say too much. They tried to get a little intimate in terms of, hey, are you going to take, and which these are questions that needed to be asked, right? Are you going to take, Marshawn Lattimore, insert him, and slide Mikey inside, or, what's the deal? And he's like, we'll see. We'll discuss all of those things, right? Essentially is what he said. They're going to do that. He started laughing. He had a little smirk on his face. And, Ben Standing had asked him this long-winded question, essentially like, hey, when this opportunity presented itself to get a guy like Marshawn Lattimore, the locker room, this, that, and the third, and, what kind of guy you get and the kind of player, things that it could allow you to do. What did you say to that? And he was like, you had me at hello, right? Essentially saying, bro, once that name popped up and there was a chance to get him, you don't got to talk to me about nothing. Just go get him. Make it happen. Like, don't ask me if I want this dude. You already know my answer. Make it happen. So it did, in fact, take place. And, DQ, you could tell he is so excited because there are so many things they want to do defensively that they just haven't been able to do. And you want to talk about a guy doing a hell of a job with the parts that he was given. I don't think enough credit has been given to Joe Witt Jr. this year. A lot of people tried to shit on him early in the year when his defense was atrocious. Oh, it's Jack Del Rio 2.0. It's Jack Del Rio. It's dust up Jack all over again. And I'm like, chill, bro. Chill. Get a man some time to acclimate himself to these pieces and parts that he's been given and figure out what he can and can't do, who he can and can't play, and what situations, and we'll see what happens. And ultimately, it hasn't always been pretty. There have been moments where you've been frustrated as a fan watching this defense, but this defense has done things that defenses in prior years that we thought had way more talent than the one that we're putting on the field right now wasn't able to do. The best we could do was beat the Houston Texans with Davis Mills at quarterback 23-10. That was the best we could do on defense, with a Kendall Fuller pick six to boot. That was the best we could do defensively. That game was 20-0 at halftime. That was the best we could do. Man, we beating the shit out of teams. 42-14 against Arizona, 40-7 against Carolina, 34-13 against the Cleveland Browns. And that was with the offense taking essentially the whole fourth quarter off. This defense is allowing us to do things that we haven't done. And that's with pieces that don't necessarily fit the scheme. They're making the scheme fit around the pieces that they have. That's good coaching. But now they really, truly get to tap into the shit that they want to do. And when DQ was asked about that, he got diabolical. He was like, yeah, you barking up the right tree. Yeah. He wouldn't expand upon it. Not expounding on that. But you know what it is. You know what this trade means. We finna get nasty. Downright dirty. Dick dastardly on defense. I love it. I can't wait to see it. Again, I feel like I got a Christmas gift that I can't play with, right? I need batteries. Got to wait for those damn batteries, but I can't wait to see it in action. Then he, obviously after the newness wore off there, they had to go to other matters like Brian Robinson Jr., which he said he practiced today, and they want to continue to see progression and growth throughout the course of the week. He talked about the Steelers, and he talked about his respect for the Steelers, and it starts with Mike Tomlin, and he talked about his relationship with Tomlin, and that goes back to DQ's first year as a coach, Tomlin's last year as a player at William and Mary, and so there was definitely there's a relationship there. And then he said Tomlin's first year as a coach was Quinn's second year as a coach. So their ties are strong and they go back a long way. And he said the identity of that team starts with Mike Tomlin. And we all know that, which is why a lot of us, when we were, in the market for a coach, and when we heard the Steelers weren't happy with Tomlin, we was, shit, if you don't want him, we take him in a heartbeat, because he sets the tone. He's a tone setter. And then he talked about Russell Wilson. Clearly, there's a relationship there. He coached in Seattle while Russell Wilson was there, so he knows about Russ. But he was like, the biggest thing with Russ is the deep ball. There aren't many quarterbacks that throw a better deep ball because Russ puts air under that thing. That's been the most impressive thing with Jayden is the air on the deep ball. When you put air on the deep ball, you give a guy a chance to go run under it. Sam Howell, we thought he threw a good deep ball, and then he got to the NFL, and that shit was flat as hell. I mean, no ass at all. Right? That shit was flat as hell. And you don't give guys a chance when you throw a flat ball. And Russell throws a moon ball. That shit is in the air forever. And so it's tough to defend. It drops out of the sky. And he's like, we got to be prepared for that, among other things. So, great conversation from, DQ in regards to Lattimore and what, he brings to the table. And, he talked about Chef P, and he said, he factors all of those things in terms of fit in the locker room and, what this guy could be. These are all conversations that they have, but, Adam Peters takes all those things into consideration. And so he's like, it was a great move. It was a no-brainer. So really excited about that. And then Jayden Daniels had a really quick presser today, only 6 minutes and some change. I think it was his shortest one of the season. He talked about the threats that the Steelers posed. They asked him a series of Marshawn Lattimore questions, but he's like, one, he was like, I don't really know the dude. He just got here, but it was more about, well, what is this move signal to the locker room? And he's like, really don't signal anything to us. We gonna, welcome him with open arms. They just added another dog to the locker room, but basically, it's all about us just getting better. And we brought in a guy that we think can make us better. And, that's what we all about. So they wanted him to say, this signifies that the organization believes in us. They think we got a chance, and they went out and got us a player that maybe put us over the top. That's not how this team is wired. They're not thinking like that. They're like, yo, who's next up? And DQ said this, and I love it. And you're gonna hear me say this a lot because I love that quote, because that's my mindset. And I've been that way all year. Eagles fans and NFC East fans want to drag us into these conversations about playing them. And I'm like, yo, you're not even on the schedule next. Eagles fans been talking about us for 3 weeks now, 3-4 weeks now, right? Ever since I've been telling them we the managers, we run this bitch. They've been in their feelings. Oh, I can't wait to get a piece of y'all. You know what? That's cool. Who's next up on the docket though? Right? And DQ's response, anytime you start talking about into the future, because they tried to ask DQ and they asked Jayden about it, and DQ said, we got a saying, and it's on the wall. And we saw this on one of the commander's logs, right? We saw the quote, and we heard it a couple of times in that episode. But he said, the most important fight is the one that we're in right now, right? The most important fight is the one that we're in now. That's Sunday against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I ain't got shit for Eagles fans right now, because I'm trying to get to that game at 8-2. Right? I ain't trying to get to that game at 7-3. Trying to get to that game at 8-2. So we'll deal with the Eagles when we get to the Eagles. And DQ talked about that. He said, look, I told the players, love DQ, man. Love DQ, man. Fucking love DQ. Damn, we got the coach shit right. He said, the players, we told the players, you don't worry about nothing but Pittsburgh. You don't got to see none of the preparation for Philadelphia. You don't concern yourself with none of that. It's about the fight that we in right now, and that's the Pittsburgh Steelers. Y'all worry about that, right? Yeah, the coaches got a lot more on their plate. They got to prepare for Pittsburgh, and they got to also be preparing for a quick turnaround against Philadelphia. Coaches got a little bit more on their plate. We don't want to clutter your mind. We don't want to take up any more of your space, right? You worry about the Steelers. That's the fight that we in right now. Let us handle worrying about 2 games in 5 days. Let us worry about that. You just worry about Pittsburgh. We'll have you ready for the Eagles the following week after we take care of Pittsburgh. Love these dudes, man. Love these guys. So when you look at what Jayden was talking about, which is we just worried about the next game. Right? We can't worry about what's coming on, going on down the road and any of that stuff. We know the threats that the Steelers pose. We know they can get after the quarterback. And we just got to continue to do the things that we've been doing. And he was asked about his relationship with Terry. They asked Terry about that throw for the second touchdown. And he was like, look, at the end of the day, we put in the work, we put in the reps, and that's the end result. And he said, we all still growing in this offense. Like this the first year of this offense with Cliff. This is all our first year in this offense. So we still all growing. That connection with Terry is still growing. That hasn't reached its apex. Still growing. We still finding our rhythm. And so that's crazy when you think about it in that context. You're like, wow. Yeah. They still figuring out stuff. We've been this dynamic on offense, and they still figuring things out. It's a great place to be, right? And yeah, the Steelers, much like us, they've added some players. Mike Williams, he's going to play this week. Preston Smith, he's going to play this week against us. Those new additions and acquisitions will be on the field against us on Sunday. And DQ talked about that too. He was like, we're with the players, it's more about knowing the opposition, knowing what players like to do. For coaches, it's more about scheme, right? So those 2 players coming in, you can't really say what they're going to be in the Steelers scheme, but you can see what they bring to the table as individuals, right? So really good pressers, man. Really good stuff today from all 3, or as I said earlier, the triumvirate. Really good pressers from all of them. And I can't wait to see what this thing looks like when we get Marshon Lattimore in to the mix. Let's go ahead and take our first looks at the Pittsburgh Steelers in this game. It's going to be a hell of a contest. I started out this stream by telling you that this game against the Steelers is the marquee matchup. It's very similar, I believe, to when we played the Ravens. Now, obviously, when we played the Ravens, we were the premier matchup in that week. Huge game, hyped up, all that good stuff, all the bells and whistles. and we did not play our best football that week. This is not the exact same thing, but if you're looking at the schedule, you're going to be hard-pressed to find a better matchup. I mean, I'm going to go on record as to say, find me a matchup this season, and maybe we just had it with the Packers and the Lions. Lions were what? The Lions were what? 6-1, and beat the Packers, and they're now 7-1, right? Because they had a bye week, the Lions did. And the Packers going into that game, what they were probably what? Were they? I don't think they were 6-2, were they? It might have been 6-2. They probably were more like 5-2. Because I think they were behind Detroit. And I feel like Green Bay's had a bye week, but maybe they didn't. But I only bring that up because I'm thinking just from an aggregate standpoint, record-wise, I think you'd be hard-pressed to have two teams with this good a record playing against one another this season, right? Obviously, the further you get into the season, the more likely it is you're going to have two teams playing with more wins. But you're talking about a 6-2 team versus a 7-2 team. I don't know if we've seen a matchup quite like that at any point this season. I don't know if we ever saw like a 5-1 team against a 4-1 team this season or something like that, right? I don't think we've seen that this year. I don't know if we've seen 6-0. Chiefs are the only undefeated team right now. Maybe you know what? Vikings were undefeated, and the Lions were what, 4-1. I think the Vikings were 5-0, and the Lions were 4-1 when those two teams met, or the Vikings might have been 5-0 and the Lions might have been 5-1 or something like that. And then they beat them. So this is one of the best matchups record-wise we've seen all season. 6-2 versus 7-2. And the Steelers, we know who they are. They're going to play good defense. They're going to play really good special teams. And offensively, they just want to do enough to win. Now, they've gotten better offensively with the insertion of Russell Wilson into that lineup. Their offense has kind of gotten this jolt of explosion, if you will. There are more big plays to be had with Russell Wilson. He's going to give guys opportunities to make plays down the field, unlike Justin Fields, who if a guy wasn't wide ass open, he wasn't going to throw it, right? He wasn't going to throw it. Russell Wilson, you can be covered, and Russell Wilson is going to give you a chance one-on-one. If he gets one-on-one, he's going to give you a shot. And he'll throw guys open. And he looks more like the Seattle Russ that went to 2 straight Super Bowls and that was in the MVP conversation numerous times throughout his career. He's looking a lot more like that guy here in Pittsburgh than the guy we saw in Denver trying to tank a Hall of Fame career. So understand what we're dealing with here. Steelers added Mike Williams at the trade deadline. So they've got another offensive weapon to go along with George Pickens, Calvin Austin, Van Jefferson, Pat Freiermuth, and Najee Harris. Not to mention Jalen Warren, the other running back, who is probably more dynamic than Najee Harris. So they got weapons. They got guys that we've got to deal with, that we've got to contend with. Russell Wilson has added a new dimension to their offense. They can now throw the football. You have to defend the pass against the Steelers. We know TJ Watt. We know Alex Highsmith. We know Cam Hayward. We know what this defense can be. We know Minkah Fitzpatrick. We know Patrick Queen. All right. Joey Porter Jr. has been playing well, but he can get work. He hasn't seen a guy like Terry this year. He can get work. And they're very confident in his abilities. They're going to give Terry some one-on-one matchups. I dare them. I double dog dare them to give him one-on-one. Because just like Benjamin St. Juice, JPJ is very handsy. He gets called for pass interference quite a bit. Okay? So If they give us those opportunities, you best believe we're going to take them. They got a young nickel, a rookie named Beanie Bishop, who's making all types of plays. Got to be careful. Watch out for him. But when it's all said and done, they're well coached. They don't beat themselves normally, right? Since Russell Wilson has inserted himself into the lineup, they don't beat themselves for the most part, even though he did have a fumble against the Giants. But they ran a punt back for a touchdown. Like I told you, their special teams is A1. It's the best special teams we've seen all season. All right. They've blocked the most kicks in the NFL. They've run a punt back for a touchdown this year. They got the best kickoff return man in the business in Cordero Patterson. He's probably going to be healthy and play against us this week. So you got to be ready on special teams. You know what this defense is. You know what TJ Watt does. They actively seek out the football. I'm talking about punching that bitch out. TJ Watt is the best in the league at punching the football out. They actively hunt the football. We better protect that bitch this week. Better protect the Rock this week because they are coming after it like nobody's business. We have not played against a team this season that actively hunts the football like the Pittsburgh Steelers. And DQ talked about that. He said they're plus 10 in the plus minus category. I don't know where that ranks. My guess is top 5. If you're plus 10, top 5. So we better take care of the damn football this week. That has to be a point of emphasis. Because trust and believe, if TJ Watt ain't getting to your quarterback and the running back is running past him, you know what his ass gonna do? Boom! And he is the best in the business at it right now. I've watched him change games. He punched the ball out twice against the Raiders, both in the red zone. Raiders were going in to score points. One time they were at the 1-yard line. He punched that bitch out. He is a difference maker, period. So we got to make sure he doesn't wreck this game, not just as a pass rusher, but also as a guy that can punch the football out too. So a lot of shit to deal with this Steelers team, man. They're not 6-2 for no reason. They don't lead the AFC North for no reason. They didn't trade for Mike Williams and Preston Smith for no reason. They made those moves because they think they got a chance to win the Super Bowl this year. So we got to be ready. As a wise man once said to me, son, be ready. We got to be ready this week because the Steelers are no joke. So let's get to some social media maneuvers. Y'all know what it is, man. I'm a midnight marauder. I really appreciate y'all for tapping in with the kid tonight. A little bit later of a show, I jumped over there with my guy, Protect Sports, a.k.a. Tones, chopped it up. It was good to be on a little round table with the fellas. I hadn't seen some of them in a minute, man. My guy, Corey Sanchez, Timmy over at Tim Sports, Tim Talking Sports. Who else was up there? Juan Gotti was up there. Obviously, Rio, myself, and then Tone. So it was 6 of us. Real good time. If you ain't have a chance to check it out, go ahead, do yourself a favor, check that out when you get a chance over on Protect Sports' channel. But that's kind of why things got pushed back because I was over there for a little while kicking it with them. But really appreciate y'all, carving out a little bit of time for the kid, chopping it up with me. And now we're going to get to y'all comments, talk about what y'all want to talk about. Big shout out to the mob. Big shout out to my Patreon supporters. None of this is possible without all of you. So I want to say you guys are the heartbeat of the Louie T Network. And I really, truly do appreciate all of you. So with that said, let's get to the comment section and see what you guys are talking about. Bilbo Baggins. Stand up. You are the newest member of the MOBB. Bilbo Baggins. I love the name, by the way. I think I told you that already before, but I'll tell you again. Love the name. Really, truly do appreciate you. Stand up. We're in the building. Mob, you know what to do. Show Bilbo Baggins some love. Welcome him with open arms. Welcome to the squad, Bilbo Baggins. Ed B. Been a member for 38 months. Salute to you, Ed B. Really appreciate you. Who writes, AP on acquiring Marshawn Lattimore was peak situational awareness. And he kind of laid that out for us. Like, look, man, we understood the assignment. We saw the opportunity that was in front of us, and we had to strike while the iron was hot. We didn't know he was available, but once he became available, we wanted to make sure we were in the mix. And they went out and got him, and it changes everything. Like, there have been signature moments this season that have redefined what success looked like for this season, right? The first was the Cincinnati game season looked like, because a star was born that night. JD5 became not only offensive rookie of the year that night, he became an MVP candidate that night. Everything changed that night, right? The way we competed, even though we did not win, the way we competed, and another one was back-to-back games against Arizona and then, Cleveland, blowing those two teams out after doing what we did against Cincinnati. That was another, kind of a milestone marker, point of the season where you go, you know what? This shit is really different. Like Louie T always says, it feels different because it is different, but no. This shit is really different. We went to Arizona, place that we always struggle. We didn't come home after the Cincinnati game. We went straight to Arizona, which is different. We don't do that. And then we went there, and then we kicked their ass, right? Arizona is leading. When somebody asks you, when one of these Dodo Eagles fans asks you, who did you beat this season? Who did you beat? Hey, Arizona's leading the NFC West. What division leader did you beat this year? I'll wait. The answer is none. They haven't beat any division leaders. We didn't just beat Arizona. We beat them like they stole something. Okay? So we go there, beat the brakes off of them, and you're like, you know what? Come home, do the same thing to Cleveland, and we resting our quarterback in the fourth quarter like the Bills did to us back in 2021. And you go, you know what? Maybe this shit is different. There's another little milestone, but it was the Ravens game for me. No, we didn't win. Ain't no moral victories. But I said, we went in there. We were down 27-13. You know how many times I've seen this team down like that and the game end 37-16? You know how many times I've seen that game end 44-16? Right? We've all seen that movie here. We were down 27-13. The Ravens had us on the ropes, and we were left for dead. And 5 said, not on my watch. Third down after third down, fourth down after fourth down, got us in the end zone and got us a chance. And the defense they didn't have enough. Couldn't get a stop when we needed it. But to lose that game by a touchdown, that's it. After the Ravens had us on the ropes and was ready for the knockout blow, speaks volumes. It made me feel like, and remember what everyone was saying after that game. Nah, we ain't win this shit. But we can compete with anybody. We know we can beat anybody in this league. And we didn't play our best game that day, and we knew that. Then you go, and you have the Hail Mary happen. That's another one of those signature moments of the season where you go, yo, this shit feels like destiny. We feel like a team of destiny. You winning games like that, there are higher factors and powers that be at work that are beyond anything that we can see. And I told you the football guy said, I got a few tucked away for you in the stash. You're welcome. And then you sweep the Giants. And here's another one of those moments coming up this week against the Steelers. And when we finally get Lattimore, and Lattimore, the trade for Lattimore might be the next signal of, hey, the expectations have changed, right? Getting him changes what we can be schematically, but just overall as a team, he changes what we can be because you might get more defensive stops. You may create more turnovers based off of what you can now do with Marshawn Lattimore as a true number one corner. It changes. Just think about it from this perspective. Part of why Dallas was so good the last 3 years, 12-5, 12-5, 12-5 in the regular season, is because defensively they created chaos and turnovers, whether they were scoring them themselves or they were setting up the offense in prime field position and real estate to score. They don't have that element this year, right? Because DQ's gone, because Joe Witt Jr. is gone. They don't have that this year. Yeah, they've got injuries, and that might be some of the issue. They were fully healthy outside of DaRon Bland the first 2-3 weeks of the season. They were getting torched, right? They were getting torched. Now, again, new defense. Everybody's got to fit in, figure out where they fit in, whatever. We get that too. Our defense was awful the first couple of weeks of the season, and we're a much better unit now than we were in week 2 and 3 and so forth and so forth. So I get that as well. But at the end of the day, getting a guy like Lattimore could potentially change everything. So this is, AP getting a guy like Lattimore could be another one of those shifts in how we view this season now. Like, yo, no. It changed my perspective. I can't speak for any of you, but that's why I now feel comfortable saying we're Super Bowl contenders. And just for the record, let me clarify something, because there are a lot of you who are a little bit trying to put this in a very nice way, because we're family. I don't want to be disrespectful to family members, but there's some of you that are a little. I can't find a more milder way. You're a little bit slow. That's harsh, man. You're not slow. Your comprehension is maybe not up to speed. That's not nice. I'm putting my foot in my mouth here. Look, some of you misconstrued what I said. That's better. Okay. So I said that we were Super Bowl contenders because of the Marshawn Lattimore trade. And I had a lot of Commanders fans in the comment section of CNN yesterday, episode 10.2. Louie T's delusional. We're not Super Bowl. We're going to the Super Bowl. Did I say we were going to the Super Bowl? Is that what I said? Is that the title of the video? Did I say that at any point in that video, that we were going to the Super Bowl? Is that what I said? Is that what the title said? Reading is fundamental. You know that, right? Comprehension. Fundamental, right? You need those things in life to be successful. Never did I say we were going to the Super Bowl. Never did I say we will win the Super Bowl. No, those words didn't come out of my mouth. Super Bowl contender is what I said. Do you understand that we have the third best record in the NFL right now? Do you understand that? Do you know that we across the board are now top 5 in power rankings? No matter where you look, we're in the top 5, right? Does top 5 in the league not make you a Super Bowl contender? Do you understand what Super Bowl contender means? It means you're in the conversation. It doesn't mean you're going to the Super Bowl. It doesn't even mean you'll play in the NFC Championship game or the AFC Championship game. It just means when people start talking about the Super Bowl and teams that could potentially get there, your name comes up. That's what a contender means. Do we not qualify for that? Anyway, I don't even know why I felt the need to justify that, but I did. Duncan Wright, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Duncan Wright writes, this guy hurt, that guy hurt. Oh, poor baby. Why don't you just say you're scared? What are you talking about again? Somebody get this man a drink. Get Duncan a drink. Get him a drink. Get him a cold one. Duncan, you go sit in the corner. You're in timeout. Okay? You're in timeout. Go sit in the corner. Steve, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Steve writes, LT, I can't wait to see a healthy Marshawn Lattimore against A.J. Brown and CD. Me neither. But again, I'm going to be patient with this. My goal isn't to rush him back and have him being yo-yoed in and out of the lineup. And I know this group isn't going to allow that to happen. They're going to be cautious with him. They're going to wait until he's fully healthy and he can be the Marshawn Lattimore that we traded for. And so thus, I expect him to miss the next 2 games, as I mentioned. Then you get that 10-day layoff, and I think he'll be ready for the Cowboys game in Week 12. And I'll be looking forward to seeing the type of impact that he can then have. But until then, this is what we've been on defense. We're going to have to continue to be that on defense. It may not be enough, against the Eagles in week, 11. We'll see. I liked our chances to beat Philadelphia before we made the trade. I'm not going to now all of a sudden, we can't beat Philadelphia without Lattimore. We didn't have him. We didn't know he was going to be on the team 2 weeks ago. We didn't know he was going to be on the team 48 hours ago, 2 days ago. So I'm not changing the way I feel. We were going to beat the Eagles with Benjamin St. Juste and Noah Igbenogany and Mike Sainristil at corner. We still may have to do that, and I'm prepared to do that, right? I'm prepared to do that. But boy, I can't wait to see him, because I feel like if you can minimize A.J. Brown's involvement, I think if you cut that head off of the snake, I think the rest of that body dies. Now, it's a little bit different because they got Saquon now, and he's a different animal. But even that, I feel better about if you can tell me, hey, we can pull that extra safety down into the box. Marshawn can run with AJ. You can put the safety over the top on Smitty, and we should be fine, right? If you tell me that, I feel damn good. Now, put that other defender down in the box, stop the run, and don't let Saquon impact the game. I feel really good about that. But we probably won't be able to execute that plan against Philadelphia to the second time we see those boys when they come to Northwest, when they come to N-Dub. GT7, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. GT7 writes, hey, Louie. What's up, GT? Feels good to be a gangster, man. Feels good. I believe the addition of Lattimore might unlock a higher level of team performance. Thoughts? And I just literally alluded to that. This team has an edge. Damn, it feels good to be a gangster. It's not just what he provides defensively. I think he could also provide a spark offensively because, again, how many times have we pinned a team only to give up 3 first downs, right? And now they flip field position. How many times have we scored a touchdown only to give up a touchdown, or score some points, a field goal, only to give up a field goal or a touchdown? How many times have we had opportunities to bust the game wide open, and because we weren't able to make that one stop on 3rd down? That Ravens game is a great example. We just needed stops in that game, and we had the Ravens in 3rd and long multiple times, and we gave it up every time. Zay Flowers was the biggest culprit in that game. You had a Marshawn Lattimore, you might be able to slow him down or take him away altogether. So now the offense is getting better field position. They're getting more opportunities. I think the biggest thing we just want as a fan base, would we like more turnovers forced by the defense? Sure. But I think to a man, as a fan, you would just take, hey, just get an offense more chances. Just give them more opportunities, because the law of averages says if you give this offense, on average, 2 or 3 more possessions, that's 7 to 10 more points on the scoreboard. That's what the law of averages says if you look at what this team has produced. Even if it's 2 more field goals, that's 6 more points. We already scoring damn near 30 a game, as is. So give me 2 more possessions, and you tell me that's another 6, 7 to 10 points? Well, that could be the difference. Now adding a guy like Marshawn Lattimore, that might force 2 more punts, 3 more punts a game, right? He could change a lot. Christopher McLaughlin, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, C-Mac, writes, hey, Lou, what's going on, Chris? Hope all is well with you and the family. Likewise, as always, hope you and yours are doing splendidly. 3 questions, 1 and 2. How do you see Kingsbury scheming the offense to shut TJ Watt down and attack Pitt's tough run defense? And 3, how do you see Joe Witt Jr. trying to shut down Najee Harris and their rush offense? So TJ Watt is a sumbitch. There's no way around that. It's hard to neutralize him because how many times have we seen this man beat a double and even a triple team, right? Like, he's relentless. One of the few guys in the league that I've seen beat a triple team, like literally actively getting triple teamed and still get to the quarterback. Like, who does that? TJ Watt does that. He can beat a double team. He can beat a chip. You have to know where he is at all times. As I mentioned, he's not just a pass rusher. He can impact the game as a run defender. He can punch the ball out. He brings a lot to the table. I don't know if there's like a set plan in place. You just got to identify him. And the one thing about TJ Watt that's good is most of the time he's going to line up against your right tackle. They don't really move him around a ton. He operates strictly on the right side of the offense, left side of the defense. For the most part. And he might switch over to the opposite side, and being that we got a rookie over there, he might get some work. He might get some action over there. But for the most part, his office is on the right side of the offense, left side of the defense. So you know where he is, so you can try to scheme around that. But the goal is just to make sure on every snap, 4 hands, 2 set of eyes, every snap. And in certain instances, 6 hands, 3 set of eyes, right? So I think that's got to be the game plan, is at all times, TJ Watt must be accounted for. He can never be singled up against Andrew Wiley. Unless it's a 3-step drop and you know the ball is coming out. Now, this is what makes us different from Houston or the Giants or some other team that he's terrorized this season, the Raiders or whomever, is we got Jayden. But this is the thing. The Steelers don't give a shit about that because they see Lamar twice a year. So if there's any team that is prepared for the legs of Jayden Daniels, it's Pittsburgh. They don't give a shit about Jayden's legs. They see it twice a year, so they aren't fazed by his speed and his dynamic ability, which is why I'm like, we better be prepared because they don't give a shit about that. Ain't a flex for them. They're like, oh, you got Jayden Daniels? So what? We see Lamar twice a year. What's your point? That ain't a flex. Everybody else in the league, that means something to. Not the Steelers. So we got to be prepared. I think you're going to see a lot of quick passes. You're going to see the run game. I think Watt is a guy that you run away from. I don't think he's a guy you run at necessarily because of what I mentioned. He'll defeat a block and then punch the ball out. Like, I just want to stay away from him if at all possible. So I think you're going to see runs away from him. If you do run to his side, I think you might see some outside runs his way where you get some crack action from a wide receiver or a tight end coming down and sealing the edge on him, right? And trying to take him out of the play completely. So you'll see some of those pulling actions where Wiley might get out of there, but the tight end comes and cracks him down, and you get that ball on the outside on the edge. I think you're going to see some of that. You're going to see some wide receiver screens, things of that nature, some quick hitters. You want to keep those guys tired. You want to get him running, so he got to come off the field and catch a breath, right? You're going to see up tempo. Obviously, that's who we are, though. Like that's who we are. We tempo. So you want them to be gassed. You want to see him on the sideline getting some water, taking a knee, and then when you get him off the field, keep him off the field. Keep that personnel on the field. Keep his ass off the field. So I think you're going to see some of that. And then when you are going to try to take that shot, when you do get that one-on-one with Terry on JPJ, you got to double him, and then you take your shot, right? As far as their run defense is concerned. I think their run defense is overrated. I don't think their run defense is all that great. I watched Tyrone Tracy run for over 100 yards on them. You can run the ball on the Steelers defense. You just got to do it in a way that allows you to be successful. Like, you just can't run at them, right? There has to be pullers. There has to be action. You know, you got to space them, right? You can't just line up and I'm going to just be physical. That's what they want. You can run on them, though. You can run on them. I think you can run on them. Like, I don't want this to turn into another Ravens game where we get away from the run because, you know, you're not getting the kind of success you want early, and so you kind of get away. Like, no. We run the football. That's what we do. We run the football. And I think we can run on them. Be nice to have B-Rob back. We didn't have him the last time we played a physical team like this. We didn't have him. Be nice to have him back this week. But again, what's more important, this game or the Eagles game? If you told me you can't have B-Rob for both, it's 5 games or 2 games in a 5-day span, he can only play 1, you know which one I want him playing in. That's a no-brainer. So if you tell me, C-Rod, you up again this week, you're going to be the physical guy. Now, that scares me because I just told you TJ Watt's pinching for punching the ball out and Chris Rodriguez is pinching for fumbling the football. Those two don't mix. That's oil and you know, and vinegar, or vinegar and oil and water. Shit don't mix. But if you told me I could only get B-Rob in one of the 2 games, sign me up for Thursday Night Football against the Eagles, right? This ain't one of those games. You ain't going to hear me utter the words, oh, we don't need such and such this week. This ain't Carolina, right? This ain't the Giants. You ain't going to hear me say that shit this week. We need all hands on deck. But if you ask me which one is more important in the grand scheme of things, I don't have to tell you which one is more important. This is it. Not only is this not an NFC East game, this ain't even an NFC opponent. So you know what it is. I still want it. I want them all. How do you see Joe Witt Jr. trying to shut down Najee Harris in their rush offense? Honestly, if we keeping it a beam with each other, you're going to have to come out of that too high shell this week. You have to come out of that too high shell. Now, the good thing is the Steelers don't have like true like speed demon deep threats. But and this is the week that Benjamin St. Juice is in his element, right? Because Juice doesn't struggle with big receivers. He struggles with the small, shifty receivers. He struggles with the Zay Flowers of the world. He struggles with the Devontae Smiths. Like, those are the guys that give him fits. Like, he was in Mike Evans's hip pocket. Those were some damn good throws, man. I mean, shit. I couldn't be mad at Juice. Those were excellent throws. He was right there, though. He wasn't even close to Zay Flowers, right? He wasn't even close a lot of times to Malik Neighbors. Them the kind of dudes that give him problems. He can run with George Pickens. He can run with Mike Williams. I don't really worry about that aspect of this game. We were worried about Darius Slayton and Malik Neighbors' speed running right by our corners. That ain't the case this week. They do have Calvin Austin. He is fast, and he is a problem. But I think you can get away with playing single high safety this week, is what I'm getting at. I think you can bring the safety down. You're probably going to have to bring the safety down. The Steelers aren't this dynamic rush offense, though. Like, you can stop their run, and they're going to try to stop it with 6 defenders in the box initially. Depending on how the Steelers line up 6 or 7. They're going to try to stop it with a normal box. And if that doesn't happen, I think they will be more likely this week than last week to come out of that too high shell to stop the run. My guy, Christopher McLaughlin, my guy, thank you for the generosity. Truly do appreciate you as always. Can't thank you enough for that generosity that you constantly display as you continue to support and hold the Louie T Network down. Big shout out to the 10 newest members of the MOBB. Stand up. You're now in the building, courtesy of our guy, Chris McLaughlin. Big shout out to Chris. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your generosity. And welcome to the newest members, courtesy of Chris McLaughlin. King of the Bluegrass. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, the NFL fear is real for the boogeyman named JD5. I told you, man, we got a hell of a fragrance over here. This shit fear that we got, that we spraying all over the place, that shit is mesmerizing. That fear, whoo, that shit is crazy, bro. I love it though. I love it. If you don't got a bottle of fear, you ain't doing something right. You ain't got a bottle of fear, you ain't doing something right. We got a whole bottle of fear, and we just spraying it all over the place, man. Spraying it all over the place. It's real. I love it. GT7, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, you sure this ain't a Devontae Adams hammy? Hearing him during the media session, I believe so. We'll see. Nah. So I listened to John Keim, who had Matthew Paris on his podcast yesterday. You know, with all the craziness, all the media members who have podcasts went scrambling trying to get to Matthew Paris because that's their New Orleans Saints connect. He was on the Commanders beat and he went to New Orleans probably thinking, man, I'm so glad to get away from the dysfunction of Washington and go to a credible NFL organization, only to find himself immersed in more dysfunction. They fired their coach already. They're the second team this season to fire their head coach in season. And he said, look, if Washington has prepared me for nothing else, I am fully prepared for dysfunction. You know, he said, I actually thrive in it. So it was funny listening to him because he's like, and they, you know, they were rubbing it in. They were telling him, yeah, man, it's a lot different over here since you were last here, Matthew. He's like, I heard, I know, right? So, you know, that was funny. But, you know, in all, you know, seriousness, he talked about Lattimore's injury situation. And he's dealt with a hamstring multiple times this season. Early in the season, he's had a couple of soft tissue injuries. And the latest is the hamstring. And it cropped up on the Thursday night game versus the Broncos. It was tight. He came out. He didn't finish the game. They played the following week against the Chargers. That's where he really injured it. You know, then he didn't play last week. So I don't think this is I might get traded, because he even said, if you listen to his little media scrum, he said, I didn't know if I was getting traded or not. He's like, I was literally in New Orleans yesterday getting treatment. Like, I had no idea that this was going down. My agent, like, you know, there's this narrative that, you know, his agent went to him and was like, yo, you know, where you want to go if you get traded? You know, a lot of fans, that's what we think, you know, that agents are going to the players. And these conversations do happen. Don't get me wrong, especially if your name is coming up. And Marshawn Lattimore's name has come up in trade conversations for the last 2 years. So it's not like this is foreign to him, but he didn't get traded last year and he probably didn't think he was getting traded this year. Right. But he obviously got traded, and he was like, you know, when I was getting treatment yesterday, and, you know, my agent called me. He was like, yo, you going to Washington? And he's like, it's been a whirlwind. He literally went from getting treatment to getting on a plane and coming to Washington and getting the playbook and trying to, you know, immerse himself in that and, you know, come in, meet everybody, you know, and there's been a lot, right? Now he's in front of this media talking about his new team and all of that stuff. I think he's legitimately banged up. Like, he talked about, you know, yeah, he's going to come in, meet the training staff, figure out what's what. but I think he's legitimately hurt. Like, I don't think this is a situation where he's not hurt. I think he's legitimately injured, and he's going to have to take some time to rehabilitate and get back right and get on the field. So I do think he is hurt. I don't think this is a Devontae Adams situation where, he shows up and he's magically cured and ready to hit the field. I don't see him playing this weekend. I don't. And I've taken it a step further. I don't see him playing against Philadelphia either. Had the Eagles game been a normal week's worth of preparation, more recovery time, there might have been an outside chance he played against Philadelphia. But I still think the most logical first opportunity to lay eyes on Marshawn Lattimore in a Commander's uniform will be Week 12 Cowboys game. That's what it feels like to me. But we'll see. Duncan Wright, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Duncan Wright, double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, you guys be acting all crazy with you dancing and Rio telling me to shut up because I'm not on the same level as him. That's cool. I wouldn't disrespect you that way. I wouldn't tell you to shut up. But look, you might have said some pretty out of pocket things to Rio. I don't know what was said there. This is what I do know. You talk trash to us for no reason other than you can, which is fine. Again, you're a part of the family. You're a distant cousin, but you're still a part of the family, right? But every now and again, we got to send you to the corner, tell you to turn around, face the wall, all right, and relax because you be doing too much. And that's okay, right? He said, cool, come next Thursday, me and the Eagles got something for all y'all mofos. You know where to find me. Whether we win, lose, or draw, you know I ain't running. I ain't scared. I'm going to be here. I've taken 30 years of abuse. You really think a Thursday night game against the Eagles is going to shake me, whether we win it or lose it? I'm going to be here. We play y'all twice, by the way. This first one is house money. I want to go in your house and disrespect you. But the good thing is, if we don't get this one, you still got to come see us. That's the most important thing. I think most Commanders fans understand that it's not going to be easy sweeping the Philadelphia Eagles. I think if you gave a Commanders fan an opportunity to take 5-1 in the division right now, most of them would probably take it. Most of them would probably take it. Like, I guarantee you, look, I can't guarantee you that you're going to sweep Dallas. You could end up 4-2 in the division. I'm not guaranteeing you beat Philadelphia at all. You could end up 3-3 in the division. But I can guarantee you 5-1. Right now, if you're willing to sign on the dotted line, you just got to split with Philly. A lot of fans probably would take that. I'm not taking it because I think we can win all 6 of these bitches, including sweeping your ass. But if we don't, I'm not tripping, especially if we don't have Marshawn Lattimore. I'm not tripping because I'm like, the next time we see your ass, it's going to look a lot different. And y'all got to come see us. But I like our chances on Thursday Night Football. Just got to get through this game first, right? Got to see that, make sure we come out of this thing relatively unscathed, all of that good stuff. Because the last time we played one of these AFC North teams, we didn't come out clean. So I got to see all of that first. But you keep talking your track. You acting like y'all got to buy this week? You got to buy this week? Because I could have sworn you had a game this Sunday, just like we do. I could have sworn. A lot of Eagles fans, and I get it. You're playing Dallas. I expect you to beat the brakes off of them. I do. But you still got to acknowledge it's a family member. Show some respect. Right? Show some respect. Anyway, I digress. And let me ask you this, Duncan. If you don't win, where you gonna be at? We gonna be able to find you? Don't drink yourself into some stupor, right? Bring your ass here and take this punishment, right? Because it's incredible. A lot of y'all talk, oh, this, that, and the third. You talk tough. That's Eagles fans' favorite thing to do. Talk tough. Then after y'all lose, can't find you. You know where I'm at. You know where I be. All our VIP. You know where I'm at. I better be able to say the same for you if y'all lose. No, win, y'all lose. JB, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Lou, you don't think Cliff is digressing, do you? No, I don't. I think the opponents that we're playing are getting better. I think that you're seeing this team continue to grow and mature, but not having Brian Robinson Jr. stunts your growth a little bit on offense, right? And I do think that we've had mistakes. Like, I don't think the Giants did anything, schematically to take things away to stop us from being who we are. We scored 27 points. Could have scored more. Obviously finished the game at the 1-yard line taking knees. If we needed to, we could have scored again. No, I don't think he's, digressing. And again, the Bears game, we made mistakes. That's a good Bears defense. We could have scored 30 on them, though, right? At a bare minimum, we should have scored 26. We scored 18, though. So, again, I think we're just where we're supposed to be. This offense is humming, and I don't think anything has changed. Cliff is still dialing them up. Guys are running wide open. We got teams off balance. There's still great spacing. I talked about that. That's something else that I probably should have brought up. The spacing is incredible. That's one of my favorite things about watching the film, is just looking at the spacing of these concepts. And I talked about this starting in I want to say it was week 1 or 2, where I started bringing up the spacing. Like, there's just a lot of space on the football field when you're dealing with Cliff. He does a great job of creating not only space in the pass game, but space in the run game as well. No, I don't feel like he's digressing at all. And I think the word you were looking for is regressing, not digressing. I think you're looking for regressing, but either way, I know what you mean. The real Telly, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. The real Telly writes, what do you think of Lattimore's quote? The injury just happened. I don't really know what's going on as far as timetable. That's legit. I just told you when the injury it happened against the Chargers. That was 2 weeks ago. That literally just happened. We talking about a hamstring. So depending on how significant of a strain it is, it got tight. They brought him back too damn soon the next week, and he injured it for real. So, like I said, in my mind, it ain't this week. It ain't the following week against the Eagles because it's too quick of a turnaround. It's the following week after that. That'll give you essentially a month, right? If you think about it in that context. He didn't play last week, so that was a full week. He got the rehab and get treatment. He's not playing this week. That's another full week, right? Not playing against the Eagles, so that's another full week. And then you can start bringing him along that following week against Dallas. That's a full month, essentially, that he wouldn't have played, and that hamstring has had time to rest. That's what he's going to take, I think, to get him back on the field and get him playing at the level that we need him at. And so I'm not rushing it because it's much bigger in my mind. Like, it ain't I don't want to rush him back to play against Philadelphia or even Dallas for the first time. If he needs an additional week, the Titans in week 13, at that point, I'm like, yo, just let him come back after the bye, right? Let him come back after the bye. Again, I know that might seem a bit extreme. The bye ain't till week, 14. So I understand that might be a bit extreme. But I'm not saying, I'm just saying. I think the bye is week 14. Could be week 13. I'm pretty sure that the bye comes I think we got the Titans at the Cowboys, and then we got the bye, and then we come off the bye, and then we got the Saints. Now, I don't need to look that up. It's week 14. I know that seems a bit extreme, but he'll definitely be healthy by then. And now you got him for the stretch run. You got him for the second Eagles game. You got him, he gets to play his former team coming off the bye. That'll be his first game against the Saints. Wouldn't that be crazy? Then you get the Eagles after that. Then you get the Falcons. Then you get the Cowboys. Now you're rolling into the playoffs, right? So this is what we're not going to do with Marshawn Lattimore. We're not going to rush him because we got him, and then he gets injured, and then you don't got him, right? That's what we don't want to do. This is how you conduct business. Up until yesterday, at about 2:00, we didn't have Marshawn Lattimore. We were as is. So we're going to continue to conduct business as is until we get Marshawn Lattimore on the field and see what he brings to the table. I always tell y'all this, and if you've been a fan long enough, we've been through enough of these to where you should understand this concept. You can't miss something you've never had. We did it with Junior Gillette. We did it with Bryce Love. We did it with a bunch of dudes where we got all excited about, oh, this player could do this and that, and the dude never played for us. What was the linebacker? Reuben Foster did it with his ass too. We've been through this enough times to know how this goes, so we ain't tripping. Let him get healthy, and when he's ready and able to contribute, then you put him in there. I'm not concerned because I know the man just injured the hamstring. So my expectations aren't to throw him out there on Sunday against the Steelers or even the following Thursday against Philadelphia. My mind's already set on Dallas. And he still might not be ready for that one, depending on the severity. This is a soft tissue injury we're talking about. So there's no looking at an x-ray and saying his hamstring is fine, he can play. It's just about how he feels. So we'll see. Duncan Wright, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Duncan, writes, don't listen to Lou. Worry about the Eagles now. We trying to be 8-2. We'll worry about y'all when we get to y'all. Duncan Wright, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Duncan, writes, yes, I agree with you, Lou. Commanders fans are slow. Thanks for the clip. Yeah, whatever, dude. I'll refer this to Rio and Super Friends, by the way. I'm clipping this. Go right ahead. Knock yourself out. I have my justification for what was said, but if you want to take it out of context, knock yourself out. I walked myself into that one, so I deserve that one. Jamal Hamlin, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, Lou, just checking in. Big ups to C-Rod for giving 23 and rip to the Cowgirls, but I'm coming to the wake to collect. As you know, I'm petty. So C-Rod didn't have a choice in the matter. He didn't have a say in the matter. He doesn't have an actual number on this roster. Remember, he's a practice squad player. They don't have actual numbers. Like, the roster is what it is. So everybody that's here already has a number. So theoretically speaking, Chris Rodriguez, when he's active, is 23 or was 23, right? But he's not active every week. He's not on the active roster. So he doesn't technically have a number. So and I realized that yesterday, I think I kind of sorted through that on the air with you guys yesterday during the show. I literally went through the note because I was messing up people's numbers. People's like, Benjamin St. Jude's 25, Louie. And I'm like, I think I said he was 26. And then I said, look, I'm my brain is scrambled. Let me just go and look up the numbers so I can see what's available instead of trying to do it by memory. And you go through it and you're like, 27 is available, 23 is available, 29 I think is available as well. But when it was all said and done, 23 is his number, and 23 is available because Chris Rodriguez not on the active roster. So I was like, oh, that's easy then. He's 23. And then we saw the post this morning, right, of the Commanders posting, it's official with the 23 jersey. And I'm like, yes, sir. So we already knew what that is. And hey, you know what it is. Dressed in all black like the Omen. Pay our proper respects to the Cowboys season. and move on, man. Like, I'm not going to dwell. You know what I mean? It had such promise, right? Jerry told us they were all in. And so there was this great anticipation. And, they beat up on Cleveland week 1. Cowboys fans took to the airwaves to tell us that this defense was better than Dan Quinn's, and Mike Zimmer was better. And this, yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we see how that went. That ended really quickly, right? That didn't have the happily ever after ending they were looking for. So we just we're gonna lay them to rest easy, man. We're gonna have a celebration because that's how the Cowboys season would have wanted it to go. Don't mourn for them. Celebrate. That's what we're gonna do. Mr. Yero, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Mr. Yero writes, Lou, you see Forbes benefiting from sitting back? Nah, I don't. Like, here's the thing about Emmanuel Forbes. They want to play a certain style of defense. Emmanuel Forbes doesn't allow you to play a certain style of defense. One, before we can even get to the coverage ability, you got to be able to tackle, be willing to tackle. That ain't his game. I remember when he came out, you saw clips of him being physical, throwing his body around, and you said, hey, he ain't soft as long as he ain't scared. And then he got to the NFL and he realized, yo, this ain't the SEC. These boys out here hitting for real. Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm going to pass on that, man. And he just ain't about that life. So that's a red flag in itself. But then you take it a step further and they want to play man-to-man coverage. That ain't what Emmanuel Forbes Jr. do. That ain't what he did in college. He was always a zone corner. Always. Which is why I never loved the pick in the first place, because I'm like, part of the reason y'all went and got William Jackson III is because you wanted to play more man. Yet you brought William Jackson III here and asked him to play zone. So Josh Norman was the best corner that Ron Rivera ever coached. Zone corner. So I'm like, unless you're going to play him like that, what are we doing here? Then they get him, and he's playing man a ton and getting cooked. So I'm like, okay, what are we doing here? You know? So they went and got Marshawn Lattimore because they want to play a certain style of defense. Forbes doesn't fit that. So I don't think there's like, oh, he's got the physical tools and traits. He just needs to, be better. That ain't what this is. Physically, he doesn't fit what they want to do. Mentally, he doesn't fit what they want to do. You think it was an accident he didn't play at all against the Giants? No, that wasn't an accident. Giants are a more physical team. He ain't playing. And my guess is if things go according to plan, he ain't playing against Pittsburgh neither. John Perez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, JP, writes, Lou, good to see you as always. Love the Lattimore trade. Just have him shadow other teams' wide receivers. He don't even need to learn the playbook. Eventually, well, you're not playing man coverage on every play. So, yeah, he got to learn the playbook. He got to understand what these calls mean. He's got to be able to play zone just like he's got to be able to play man. They're not going to play man coverage every snap. So that's an oversimplification. But, yes, he's going to be playing most times the other team's best receiver. Will they have him travel? We'll see. But, yeah, he'll be playing a lot of man. But that's not the only thing he was brought here to do. Excuse me. Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Video channel writes, I'm excited to see how Lat makes BSJ better. We'll see if that happens. I love the fact that he was already, showing him, tricks of the trade on day one. Already showing them, hey, when they come off the ball, first thing you want to do is, you can see him kind of schooling them a little bit. I'm like, yeah, we need that. Juice need that in his life. We could see a totally different Juice back into this season, and Juice could be back. We could already have our CB2 already. Who knows? That's the real question. Not can Forbes grow and benefit, but can Juice grow and benefit from the presence of Marshawn Lattimore? That's probably more of the question that everybody should be asking, because Juice has the physical traits. He's got the size. He's got the length. He's got the physicality. He doesn't necessarily have the wheels. He didn't have the agility, the start and stop ability, the click and close ability. But if he can make up for it in other areas by having better technique, that's his biggest issue, is his technique isn't great. If Lattimore can help him from a technical standpoint, Juice could be a better player. John Perez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. JP, double up, thank you for doubling up. Who writes, I also had a feeling the Saints would sell. I'm surprised they didn't have a fire sale because they had valuable items other teams would have liked. I'm surprised too. I thought really that I know they just re-signed, gave an extension to Kamara like 3 weeks ago. But he would have been on the market. He's not getting any younger at a position where as you get older, you become less and less valuable. I would have seen a team, if a team was interested. Carl Granderson, he's a good player still, in his prime. I would have tried to ship him off. Chase Young, I would have seen if I could have coaxed somebody into giving me anything for Chase Young. I would have, they got some young, good, talented pieces that I would have not been willing. Like Alontae Taylor is really good. I'm not trading him. You know what I mean? Because by the time we get good again, he'll be in the prime of his career. But there are pieces that you say to yourself, by the time we get good again, this guy's going to be of no use to me. Let me get him out of here, right? And Kamara fits into that boat. If somebody was interested in Foster Moreau, I would have shipped his ass out of there. Like, I would have gotten rid of some stuff. But they didn't. And again, we might overvalue and overrate what they have, and other teams might have been like, nah, I'm good. Jamal Hamlin, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, we face Burrow, Kyler, Caleb, Lamar, and Jones. We are good to go, putting Wilson in the phone booth. He's not even a scrambler like that no more. But he does look to extend as a passer. He's not extending as a runner like he used to back in the day. So you got to be mindful of him because he'll sneak through. But I feel good about our ability to get to Russell Wilson. We just got to get to Russell Wilson, right? But I feel good about, like, if we, like, this ain't going to be a situation where he's going to be ducking and dodging and, oh, he's slippery like Baker Mayfield was. You didn't mention Baker Mayfield. Baker was probably the worst one. Baker was the worst one. I don't think we sacked. I think Cleveland Farrell got him once on some. He escaped two dudes, Cleveland, and cleaned him up from the backside. Like, we could have sacked Baker like 5-6 times, and we couldn't get a handle on him. So, I feel good about being able to keep, build a fence, a wall around Russ and keep him in the pocket. We just got to get to him, right? Going Commando, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Going Commando, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Lou, wife is a Steelers fan. Interesting. Sunday is going to be interesting. I literally just said interesting. That's crazy because I hadn't seen the rest of your super chat. Interesting. May need witness protection if we win. Last time we ended their undefeated season. Yeah, that should be fun. Households. I'm so thankful that my wife, I converted her. When I met my wife, she was a Cowboys fan. And you asked me, Louie T, how in the hell did you manage to do that? She was fed up with Jerry's shit. She just needed a push. I came along. She was fed up with Jerry. It was during the Kaepernick, right around that Kaepernick situation with the knee. And Jerry had, his hardline stance. And I just took advantage of the situation and I converted her over. And man, it's the best thing I've ever done. Because had she been a Cowboys fan, this shit would have been insufferable. I don't know how some of y'all do it, right? I grew up in a house full of Cowboys fans, so I know how it goes. But to have that person be your sibling, that's rough. Corey was on Protect's channel tonight, and he was talking about his wife is a Cowboys fan. That's rough. Because now you jockeying for position with the kids. Like, wife is trying to turn the young one into a Cowboys fan. You like, nah. We ain't doing that. We gonna let him choose for himself. Tough place to be in. But yours is a little bit different because Steelers fan, AFC, NFC, we don't play them, but every 4 years. Now with the new 18 game or 17 game schedule, we could play them every 2 years or so or whatever, but depending on where they finish, where we finish in the division. But gonna be really interesting. We've had some interesting games against them, and like I said, they at the top of the pile right now. They at the top of the list. Twerk Fest, those penalties must be paid for. All right, those penalties must be paid for. It's time for the Freaknik to have an answer for it. And it's a damn shame that you paying for the penalty of dudes that are no longer there, but that's how this shit goes. I need it. And I'm looking to get it this weekend. I'm going to be checking for you, going commando. If we win, I'm checking for you to make sure you all right. Because I know you're going to be talking mega trash. I don't know how good of a sport your wife is. She might let you have it. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Metaphor writes, ticket donators, a BNG angel. I'll send him a hat. Oh, he definitely is a stand-up guy, man. He's really dope as hell for that shit. I mean, he donated these tickets 3 weeks ago, like I said. He knew in advance not going to be able to attend that game. I want to donate these because, I mean, again, you a season ticket holder, most times you can sell your tickets. He'll be the second or third member of the MOBB to not be able to attend a game that says, hey, I want to donate these to the mob. That's the kind of family we've created here. Hope y'all understand that this shit is bigger than any of us individually. We are the mob. It's different, right? We move as one around here. We take care of each other. And that's bigger than any one of us individually. That's what we've cultivated here. And I love it. So we're going to shout him out tomorrow. I'm going to dig in the emails and figure out who donated the tickets, and we're going to shout him out because that was a hell of a gesture. And again, I looked at where those tickets were. I was like, shit, I might need to take these for my damn self. Nah, I'm playing. But they some good-ass tickets. I know that much. Gary Pittman. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Gary writes, hey, Louie, sup with you, family? All good, man. It's all good over here, Gary. What's good with you? Says, yo, you better have our rent money next week. Just saying, family. You know where to find me. And Gary, this is the thing. When we win, I need to hear from you, Gary. I need to hear from you. All right? Don't you try that falling down the step shit, Gary. You awake, mother. All right? We know the rent's due. Don't try that falling down the step shit on me, Gary. You hear me, mother. Okay? I don't want to have to come looking for you. You know where to find me at. We lose, I'm going to be right here. Taking it on the chin. I ain't running. You know what I do. You know where I'll be. Mark David, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, Terry quietly tied for second in receiving touchdowns. Let's go. Quietly, Terry has done that. And I always, when anybody brings up Terry, I always have to say this. Not that it is a major thing, but I always have to bring it up. For context purposes, we haven't had our bye. And a lot of players on those lists have had bye weeks, right? So always something to consider, but I don't want to diminish what Terry has done this season. He has been incredible. I'm so happy for him finally having a quarterback, someone he can build true rapport with, someone that he can look at and they kind of be on the same page, have that play like we had before the half happened, have that trust in Terry to go and give him an opportunity to go get the go ball against Chicago, against Cincinnati, et cetera, et cetera. So it's great to finally see Terry, sent the Cleveland game, the big play out of the pocket. It's great to see Terry finally have that guy that can get him the football. I'm really, really happy for him and excited for, this season. I really think this has a chance to be his best season of his career. And I'm not just saying that because look at his numbers, look at the touchdowns. He's going to eclipse 7, which is the most touchdowns he's had in his career. And that was his rookie season. He's going to eclipse that, obviously, if he stays healthy. Right? That's a given at this point. I'm talking about we've been waiting on that 1,500-yard season from Terry. And you can't have more of the games like we just had if you're trying to get to that number. You can't have 2 touchdowns is epic. You can't have that be your only 2 catches and 19 yards if you're trying to get to 1,500, though. If you are, you better have a 215-yard performance. Terry's never cracked 200 in his career in a game, right? So we got to stay consistent. We had picked up consistency here of late. And then last week, we had a dip. But ain't nobody tripping when your 2 catches are 2 touchdowns. Terry ain't tripping. Because if you say, hey, Terry, would you rather have 6 catches for 72 yards and no touchdowns or 2 catches for 19 yards and 2 touchdowns? He'll take the 2 for 19 for 2 touchdowns because I've impacted the game greater than the 6 for, 72 or whatever. Even though those could all be third down conversions for all we know. Could have set up other touchdown scoring opportunities. I directly accounted for 14 points being put on the scoreboard. Right? Or in that case, 12. But 6 touchdowns in 9 games for Terry is crazy. Knowing that this guy has never had more than 7 in his career. So sky's the limit. I'm trying to get him to double digits. And not just any double digits. I'm trying to get him to 12. That's the magic number for me. That's elite in the NFL. 12 receiving touchdowns in a season is elite. I'm trying to get him to that point. He got some work to do in the touchdown department. Got a lot of catching up. Because with the numbers Terry's put up to start his career, we could make a push for the Hall of Fame. Like, now that he's got one of them ones at quarterback, we can start talking about crazy shit like gold jackets. But if you're going to do that, we got to start getting these numbers up, right? Because the last 4 years, only receiver to have 70 catches and 1,000 yards, like those are numbers that's going over time get you to where you want to go. But we got to start putting up some big boy numbers, though. If we're going to start having them type of conversations, he got to be all pro at least once in his career. We got to start getting him to the Pro Bowl. Like, these are the numbers that's going to get you in the Hall. We got to stop the underrated conversation and start talking about some hardcore numbers. That's what gets you in the Hall. We got ground to make up in touchdowns, yards. Let's go get it, man. That's what I'm trying to do. Let's go get it for Terry. Heavy on it news. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Heavy on it news writes, hey, Lou, what's going on? How are you doing? I'm doing well. What about yourself? What do you think they're going to do with Forbes? Do you think they are done with him 100%? I don't think they're done with him 100%, but I do think they're done with him. Now, when I say that, what do I mean by that? Shit happens. He may have to play this year. If they were completely done with him, they would have cut him, right? They're not going to cut him. There's still value in him being on this roster. And even in the offseason, I don't think he's an immediate, cut candidate. I think they hold on to him. What I think they would ultimately like to do is try to get something for him. I think they tried to trade him at the trade deadline, and there was no value whatsoever. That could change in the offseason. Right now, a team may look at Emmanuel Forbes and say, we straight, we got free agency, and we got the draft. We'll get us a corner. We don't need him. What happens if you strike out in free agency, you strike out in the draft, and now you up shit creek without a paddle, and you have an injury at corner? Now, all of a sudden, you're desperate. Emmanuel Forbes doesn't sound as bad now. And he's young, and he's on a rookie contract, yada, yada, yada. I think that's what they're going to hold out hope for. I think they take him all the way to camp next year, right? And if they get free agency and draft, and they address, because again, the only two corners under contract, three corners, excuse me, under contract after this season is over, is Noah Igbenogany, or is Mike Sainristil, Marshawn Lattimore, and Emmanuel Forbes. Juice, last year of his deal. Noah Igbenogany signed a 1-year contract. Michael Davis, 1-year contract, won't be back. So you only got three corners. So again, they're not done. How aggressive do you attack the position in the offseason? How good do you feel about those players will go a long way in dictating what ultimately becomes of Emmanuel Forbes. Heavy on it news. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, Lou, you didn't have to pull up on the cowgirls like that. Enjoyed the laugh. Had bad day anxiety. Sucks. Hashtag HTTC. Look, man. As much as I love going after Eagles fans and getting them riled up, I love getting under their skin. They're so easy to rile up. Like, I literally sent out a tweet before I left the house. I knew I was about to be on the road for the next 4 hours on Sunday night. They beat the Jaguars. Me and my wife stayed and watched the conclusion of that game. As soon as it was over, I sent out a tweet and then left, right? I literally just let a match, threw it, lit the shit on fire, and walked away, right? Committed arson, social media arson is what I did. I didn't even look at my social media, left it there, and then opened it up, and the shit had spread like wildfire. You know, I said, man, Trevor Lawrence stinks, but so do the Eagles. And that just, it is just back and forth with all kinds of, Commanders fans, Eagles fans getting into it, people coming after me. I love it, right? As much as I love poking the Eagles, the Cowboys fans are the most annoying because every year they think they're good and they buy into Jerry Jones's shit. And the thing that really bothered me with Cowboys fans this year is on the NFC Super Friends, we paraded Cowboy fan after Cowboy content creator after Cowboy content creator after content creator for the Cowboys on the show. And I continued to ask them questions because I wanted truth from them. And every Cowboys content creator came out there, spit that same hopium bullshit instead of acknowledging the truth. Oh, no, we're better on the offensive line. No, you're not. Oh, we're better on defense. No, you're not. Oh, we're fine at running back. No, you're not. Oh, we can stop the run. We're better at defensive tackle. No, you're not. Your draft was horrible. Your roster ain't better. Your coaching staff ain't good. And then the one Cowboys fan that got up there and was talking with some sense still was like, Don't count us out. We're going to go to San Francisco and beat. No, you're not beating the 49ers, man. Wake up. Be honest with yourself. You suck ass. And the faster you come to grips with that, the more likely it is I am to leave you the hell alone. Just acknowledge. All I ever look for is acknowledgement. If you can do that, if you can give me acknowledgement, I'm good. So they didn't want to acknowledge it. I'll do it for you. Don't worry about it. Hope you feel better. Oh, Heavy on It News. Got you. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, by the way, this Shauna Gang other channel. Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. Good to know. Good to know. So now that I see this, I know who I'm talking to. Heavy on It News. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Heavy on It News writes, Lou, that's crazy because my husband is a Saints fan. LOL. Well, how did he feel about the trade? You know, Tim brought it up earlier on Protect's channel that he doesn't think Saints fans really enjoyed this trade. Like, he's like, if you're a Saints fan, do you feel good about this trade? Because we were talking about whether or not Chef P fleeced the Saints. I feel like it was a fair trade because we gave up a lot to get Marshawn Lattimore, but he's worth it. And Tim made some great points, and I can see both sides of the argument for we fleeced him versus it's a fair trade. But Tim said, if you're a Saints fan, do you love this trade? Do you love a third, a fourth, and a sixth? I'd love to know how your husband feels about the trade. Like, how did he feel about trading away Marshawn Lattimore? How did he feel about him as a player? And how he felt about the compensation that they got back in return. NRG, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. NRG writes, Lou, who is the most instrumental in the Commander's success? DQ, 5, Chef P, JH. Will we continue to see success versus teams such as Pittsburgh, Philly? Hashtag Lat23. Who is the most instrumental in the success? I would say it's Chef P. I mean, look, had we not had 5 at quarterback, are we having these conversations? No. So you could easily go straight to 5. But we played in a game this season. Granted, it was the Carolina Panthers. But we played in a game without 5, and we beat a team 40-7. And so what I'm saying to you is 5 is absolutely paramount to the success of this team. We are not a Super Bowl contending team without 5. This season is not 7-2 with these ridiculous aspirations without 5. We don't even have Marshawn Lattimore without 5. But without Chef P, you don't have DQ. You don't have this staff. You don't have these players. Because you got Chef P, you then got DQ. Because you got DQ, you were able to assemble this staff with Cliff Kingsbury and Ken Norton Jr. and Joe Witt Jr. and Jason Simmons and Brian Johnson and David Rye, and I could go on and on and on. All of these coaches were assembled because of DQ, who is here because of Chef P, right? It's a domino effect. I talked about that before. You don't have Bobby Wagner if you don't have Ken Norton and DQ. So it all starts to me with Chef P. But I think you also have to understand the value of a quarterback the caliber of a Jayden Daniels and what that does to an organization. Ultimately, all of those guys that you brought up have a tremendous amount of deserve a tremendous amount of credit, and I would just divvy up the credit amongst them almost equally. But Chef P is the origins of all of this. He selected Jayden Daniels. He could have drafted Drake May. He hired Dan Quinn. He could have hired Mike McDonald. He could have gone in a different direction. Anthony Weaver of the Ravens, who's now the Dolphins defensive coordinator. He could have gone in a multitude of directions, but he didn't. And we're here because of all of the moves that Chef P has made. From trading Jahan Dotson to trading John Ridgeway, which then ultimately helped us land Marshawn Lattimore. From getting rid of a kicker to then getting Austin Seibert to signing Noah Brown. All of these moves. Again, Chef P pressing the right button. If you made me pick, I'd take him. But again, I think him and 5 are neck and neck. And I feel like DQ and his energy and his culture building and how he's instilled the brotherhood. And like all this shit is, it's almost like you can't do one without the other. It's a tough question to answer. So yeah. Will we continue to see success versus teams such as Pittsburgh and Philly? Yeah. Because we got one of them ones. Hell yeah. Miggy, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Miggy writes, sup, Lou? Sup, Miggy? Now, with 23 in town, I'm more intrigued how Quan's game evolves going forward. They might be holding him back for safety measures till now. I mean, anything's possible. You know, anything's possible. I think the guy that's going to see the most growth from this, from a safety standpoint, isn't Quan Martin. I think it's Jeremy Chin. Because how many times has Joe Witt Jr. said, I want to blitz him more? He can't, because you got to play him high a lot of the time. So you can't blitz him. He's got to be away from the line of scrimmage. Now that you can play single high and you can bring that extra safety up, now Jeremy Chin can become unlocked, I believe. I think if you're talking from a secondary standpoint, him and Mike Sainristil are the two guys that have the potential to be unlocked because of this move from a secondary standpoint. So I think you can see Jeremy chin checking people here, and then you got Frozone, you know, freezing dudes up. I think you can see a lot of really good shit from some of those guys. So, but we'll see. Ace the One, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Ace the One writes, thank you for being a member of the MOBB. If Terry gets 1,500 yards and 12 touchdowns, that's all pro. It should be. A lot of good receivers in this league. You think Justin Jefferson ain't about to have 1,700? You think Jamar Chase ain't about to have 1,600? I mean, there's only so many slots for all pro receivers. 1,500 and 12 touchdowns should get you to all pro status. But Amon-Ra St. Brown is a beast, right? They putting up numbers over there. Like it's some different animals out there, man. So your little 1,500, which used to be a big deal when there were 16 games, that shit ain't really hitting like it used to with 17 games and with the way some of these offenses are being dynamic and explosive. You can see 4 or 5 dudes eclipse 1,600 yards. You know, I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but I mean, Chase, if he's healthy, Jefferson, if he's healthy, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Those are guys that put up big numbers, yards, touchdowns, you name it. So 1,512 should get you all-pro consideration. It's definitely Pro Bowl status, without question. Without question. Joe Rockhead, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Joe Rockhead, writes, what's up, Louie? What's up, Joe? Odd how quickly spoiled I've become to feel concerned when we don't blow teams out. Isn't that cute? Isn't that cute how we all of a sudden turned into spoiled brats when we don't beat a team by 2 scores or more, right? When the game is close. Even the golden era skins had many hard-fought nail-biters. You always rock. #2 claps and a Ric Flair. Woo! Yeah, facts. That's how dynamic this offense has been. They have trained us to go into games expecting not to punt. When we punt, that feels like a surprise. A punt? Like when we, like, I'm going to talk about something later on in the week. I'm going to save it for later on in the week because it's something that I really think needs to be talked about. But I'll say this. That first possession of the second half, I expected us to score and put the game away. And when we went 3 and out, I was like, wait, what? 3 and out? We ain't going to score? We just scored on 2 straight possessions. Wait, 3 straight possessions. We didn't score on the opening possession. We scored a touchdown after the forced fumble. They scored a touchdown. We came back and scored a touchdown. We got to stop. We scored another touchdown before the half. And just like that, 3 straight possessions, 21 points. I'm like, yo, they haven't stopped us in 3 straight possessions. Let's go make it a 4th. Let's go end this thing. And then when we didn't, I told y'all immediately, this game is about to be a lot harder than I wanted it to be. And what ended up happening, of course, the game became much more competitive. But we are spoiled, and that's a good thing. That's a good problem to have. The expectations are so high now. The bar has been moved from at the floor to all the way to the ceiling now that it's hard to clear it every week, but at least the bar is set high. There are real expectations now. And when they are not met, we are disappointed. We used to set, remember when we used to set the bar low so that we could have lowered expectations? Lowered expectations. We wanted to make sure that we protected ourselves from disappointment. So we would set the bar low. And if they cleared it, hey, found money. Look at that. But if they didn't, we could tell ourselves, well, we already knew they weren't going to do the shit anyway. That's not the case anymore. We setting that bitch as high as we can get it, knowing good and well we ain't clearing it, but at least the bar is set high, and we're gonna give it our all to try to clear that thing. And that's a fun feeling as a fan, to go into every game expecting to score on every possession until they tell us otherwise. We used to beg for scores. Now, when we don't score, we pouting like a little 6-year-old. We come a long way. Boy, we come a long way. And I love it. Gene Washington. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. HTTC. JD5 wrote down how many yards CJ had his rookie year. He's locked in. Need to see that list. I'm more concerned with how many wins CJ had in his rookie season. CJ won his division. I'm after that. I think CJ did it with 10 wins, if I'm not mistaken. That ain't good enough for us. That ain't gonna win our division either. So a little bit different over here. But I'm after what CJ was able to accomplish. CJ won a division and a playoff game. I'm gonna keep it a bean with you. One playoff game is cool, but I'm after much more than that. I'm after much more than that. Gene Washington. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. My guy Gene writes, HTTC, my fault. Hey, Lou. It's all good, man. It's all good. I appreciate you, Gene. What up, man? How you feeling? Duncan Wright. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Duncan writes, kiss my feet when you lose. Duncan, this is why I make you go in the corner and turn around and face the wall. Right? This is exactly why I make you go to the corner and turn around and face the wall. When you say stuff like that. What are you talking about, Duncan? At least you know what, though? Tonight, I could say you must have worked tonight because every one of your comments have been coherent. The grammar has been correct. So that means you're sober. I am proud of you. Hey, everybody, round of applause for old Duncan for staying upright tonight, not getting bent, and making sense. We appreciate you. Anyway, I digress. I might have spoken too soon. I'm looking at one of your comments and I'm like, I don't know what that is. Might have spoke too soon, but I digress. Anyway, that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T, here on this installment of Commanders Nightly News Live. I really appreciate y'all joining me. Once again, a bit of a later show than I wanted it to be, but I digress. You guys still came and kicked it with me, and I can't thank you guys enough for the support. We'll be giving away tickets tomorrow on the show, or we will start the process of giving away tickets tomorrow. We will give those tickets away on Friday's show, so make sure you're tuning in the next couple of days, see what the hashtag is, and then also tune in Friday to see if you won, right? We'll really dig into the Steelers. We'll go behind enemy lines tomorrow and really start to prepare for the Pittsburgh Steelers to take a look at the injury report. A lot of intrigue surrounding that thing now with Austin Seibert, obviously the newest acquisition in Marshawn Lattimore, et cetera, et cetera. But I think we'll be just fine on the injury report this week, especially with Seibert. I think he's going to be fine. I think the team would have been a lot more aggressive had this been something they were super concerned about. But we'll find out a lot tomorrow. If we hear that the Commanders are bringing in some kickers, that means they're concerned, and we should be too. But haven't heard anything yet. I feel good. We'll see what happens. But in any event, Commanders fans, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, "Hey Lou, he was heartbroken. But he is cheering for us. Not so win is a win. He loves the trade. Hashtag HTTC. This is Shauna." I knew who it was when you were talking about your husband. I knew exactly who it was. Good. Okay. Cool beans. So he was a big fan of Marshawn Lattimore. And I think a lot of Saints fans were as well. He's really good for him for a very long time. So cool beans. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. Until next time, you know what it is. You guys have a great night. Take care. We'll come back. We'll chop it up tomorrow and get that process started. Until then, God bless. Good night. Duncan, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Duncan Wright writes, I got more to drink now. Let's talk tomorrow. Okay, Duncan. Good night.